Kitty Pryde fucking Colossus shit isn't. It's fucked up, dude. Kitty Pryde's 14. This is the Imperial Skills Honor podcast. I am Josh Folan.
And I am Jay Baxtron.
And we are going to be bullshitting about the formative years of console gaming as we revisit the protocols that covered it. Again. Today we are ripping Dinosaur Sunkissed fruit snack packs and checking back in with Taito's Rastan lineage with our 1991 installment, Rastan Saga II, for the Sega Genesis. There's some light literature of antiquity to accompany us on this journey, a 1.33333 repeating pages of coverage in our last mag perusal, Sega Visions 4, but it's not much, and you probably don't need it anyways, ultimately, to play this video game. Emulation disclosure, mine went down on the Genesis Plus GX Core in RetroArch, my PC, but with my Sega 6-button arcade stick, because I always want that full arcade experience when material warrants, and I'm glad I did so in hindsight. Jay, how did you play?
Not that way. Probably, I wish I would have had an arcade stick for this experience, but I did use the standard Genesis 6-button controller, piped in my USB via Kega Fusion.
Word. Please rate and review the podcast, be part of the ISOH movement, give us validation on your podcast platform of choice in the form of a rating or review, and we'll read it here on the pod. What are we jamming on now, Jay? Jay, what are you jamming on now, buddy?
So much hotness. We haven't even, has not been that long since we last recorded, but
it's been 3 weeks. Time flies.
Dude, 3 games have just popped up in that time frame that just were unexpected. So, first of all, looking for something new to play with Courtney, and, always looking for something new to play. And she found this game. Not sure if you've heard of it. I've never heard of the series before, but this game called Orcs Must Die Death Trap. Have you heard of this at all?
No, but that's a fun name.
Okay, so obviously being big Lord of the Rings fans, we've been playing that Lord of the Rings Moria game where you're fighting orcs and stuff. So she's scrolling through Game Pass, sees this game. She's like, oh, let me try it. Convinces me to download it, and we're playing it together. It is it's like a fighting castle defense game. And it's been a long time since I played a true castle defense game that I really, really liked. I used to love Age of Empires Castle Siege on my iPad all the time until that went away. But castle defense games are really hit or miss for me. But this one, it's just so fun.
I don't think I've played one, and it's probably not even okay to call this one. But the last castle defense game I think I played was Rampart on the SNES.
I thought you were playing, I thought there was one that you were...
Castle Defense? No, by Castle Defense you mean it's like a round-based thing where you shoot the fucking other, shoot the other... What was that? There was an amazing board game that Jab and I had. It wasn't Hero Quest, it was called fucking something. But it was basically that. Basically you just pummel the enemy, and then, depending on how you do, you get a little build turn, and then you do it again, right? And
that's essentially it. So you got to keep all the orcs from coming into this portal, and you're in this big castle kind of place, and it starts with 2 inches that come in, and you see which way they're going to go, and you can block
that
them.
Fucking the first Asgard's Wrath had shit like that.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't a. It was like a boss. The boss battles were essentially that. So maybe that's what you're thinking of me talking about. But yeah, I can't imagine the last time I've played a game like that.
Yeah,
I love Rampart. Rampart's cool. I also like Warlords. There's no build thing, but Warlords on 2600, I'm constantly defending on Blue Sky because people talking shit about Atari games. I'm like, you need to play Warlords. If you fucking don't think there's any good games on Atari, especially multiplayer, Warlords is an elite paddle multiplayer game. That is up to 4 people, too. The paddles allow you to play 4. Think about that. That's an amazing thing in of itself. Yeah. That Atari 2600 had 4-player versus capability. We talk about the fucking 4-score NES satellite being such oh my god, 2 decades before that. Or a decade before that.
Atari did not take full enough advantage. They didn't have the games to really...
They didn't have enough of them, but Warlords worked great, and it fucking is super fun to play. Yeah. Anyways.
But that is... The co-op aspect of it to me is really the big selling point. I'm sure you could find a lot of different games of this genre, and again, there's Orcs Side 2, 3, like this is a separate one. But like the co-op aspect of just like us playing together, like, all right, you defend that door, I'll defend this door, you know, place your traps here, just the communication of that, just really fun game to try. So maybe not like maybe not blow your mind, like, oh my gosh, knock your socks off kind of game, but for spending time together with somebody you like hanging out with and being strategic, it's a fun game. Highly recommend.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea that you could co-op that like a team-oriented approach to something like that. How much do you argue about the building phase?
Oh, no, that's a good thing. We don't. Like, it's smooth since you each have your own
like
set of amounts.
Reservoir?
Yeah, it's not like a combined resource amount. So that's why it's kind of like, okay, actually, you still have a whole lot left over. Why don't you use yours over on the next spot? And I'll just, refine kind of thing. So it makes it easy that way. Less arguing. But man, other than that, the next game I played, dude, I've spent so many hours on this game already, and I can't even believe it. So working at Xbox, I would obviously, everybody has different kind of game flavors and things that they like. And so over the years, people have mentioned games that I've just been like, oh, okay, that game is great. Sure, I'm never going to play it. It's not my jam. Anytime people mention point and click, I'm like, no, thank you. And so similarly, people talk about like card battling games, anything card related. I'm like, even though there's been some great card games I've played in the past, like Gwent, until they try to make it a separate game from Witcher and they ruined it. And even like the card game that they put in ESO.
I know I've said it a million times. I cannot stress how fast I glossed over that every instance of that.
You missed out.
Witcher 3 Imperial in general, though.
You missed out.
Over, so.
But I mean, with that said, I normally, because I've tried some other games like Marvel Snap and other ones that I just was not a fan of, I always ignored this game. However, again, looking for something new to check out because all of my backlog games are basically open world RPGs, and I'm like, I need some variety. Like, I can't just do sports and RPG. Looked in the Game Pass library and found Slay the Spire. Dude, came out in like 2020. It's a roguelike deck building game. Oh, so much fun roguelike aspects, like I'm playing Hades, that whole you got to go on this long run with multiple acts to get to the end. Still haven't completed it. But oh my gosh, it's so addicting. I can't believe I'm sucked into this game. Like I don't even know how to explain it. Like you're trying to ascend the spire, multiple floors, and it procedurally generates each time. You got 1 of 4 characters you can choose. But like the cards.
Well, slow down.
Oh, dude.
You keep talking about cards.
Yes.
But there's like a game. So it's Demio. You're saying Demio.
It's
like you use cards to make things happen in a game space.
It reminds me.
You say cards, and I think you're just playing cards.
No,
I've never understood like the Magic the Gathering thing is just
no.
And dude, I am a fucking nerd and a half. I'm playing D&D later with Jeff. Like, I am a fucking nerd and a half. But when you tell me you have a deck of cards and you're just exchanging cards, you moron. What are you doing?
No, check it out. So you're basically
there's got to be a more interesting way to spend your time.
All right. So if you think of it like you have a giant spire, so a tower you're trying to climb, and to get there, to climb the tower, you have to like battle creatures, avoid robbers. You might stop at a rest stop. You meet crazy like characters and goblins who might try to trick you or give you relics, and maybe they'll help you out. Maybe they'll give you something that's going to curse you. You don't know. But basically, there's like multiple paths you can take, and you see it when you start out. Like you have like a starting point here, and it just spirals, and it's like you want to go this way, and you can change which way you go like as you go along at certain points. But each point is like a decision tree. Like you land here, clearly this is a battle. Like you're going into a battle. You go here, you might get a rest stop. But each time you go into a battle, you're looking at yourself on one side of the screen and then the enemy or enemies on the other side. And you can see their health bar, your health bar, all that. But then like you get like your card deck, and it's random what you start with each time. But each time you go through a run, you unlock more cards to use the next time. So it's kind of
sounds like a mashup of a choose your own adventure book and that Demio Battles.
Dude, it is kind of like that. It is, because you're like, do I play a block here? Do I play something that's going to like damage them? Do I use this addition? And you only have, just like Demio, like 3 or 4 magic points per turn kind of thing. So it's like that, but you're not moving around the screen. You're just like using the cards, turn by turn to battle before you can decide whether or not you get to move on. And it is so addicting. It's so addicting. Like, there's no other way to explain that without being like super nerd about the type of things that you can unlock.
To be honest, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I liked Demio battles, but because there was no progression to work through, it sounds like basically an upgraded version of Demio battles in that it actually has somewhere to work towards as opposed to meaningless stat accumulations, and cosmetic unlocks, which I could care less about.
I think that's accurate because I like Demio way better than Demio battles. Like, I'd play some Demio today, but this, I would play this before Demio battles as well too, just because you are progressing. The whole point is like, I want to complete a run. I want to make it all the way to the top and beat the final dude at the top, which I have not done yet. And I keep unlocking cool stuff, but not cool enough to get me there, not powerful enough. Or I'm making choices along the way. Like, all right, I'm not going to heal all the time. I'm just going to go for like the curses and see how much more powerful I can get, So that decision tree is really the big fun of it for me. So I highly recommend Slay the Spire. And then, woo, Josh, let me tell you, like, my next game is a retro game that has been rumored to come to Xbox, and it is finally here. Shadow dropped a few days ago. Marvel Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics. And by itself, it's
how did you stop playing Marvel Battles or whatever it's called to play?
Oh, Marvel Rivals? Oh, I've just took a break from that. Like, that's a fun game, don't get me wrong. Like, but I'm not always in the mood for that type of game. And so this is a game that I had been looking forward to for so long, because it comes with 8 fighting games, but specifically there are two that, like, to my core growing up childhood are just X-Men versus Street Fighter and Marvel versus Capcom 2. Finally on Xbox, totally worth the $30 without question. Throw it down immediately. Just as awesome as when we were kids with all the great quality of life upgrades and stuff that you would expect.
Fighting games never really my thing. Mortal Kombat and a little bit of Street Fighter, but I never really got past that. And the mashup concepts, like the IP mashup things, never did anything for me.
Okay, so
never got my biscuits burning.
I can't even believe that. Like, that's heresy. Like, as an X-Men comic fan, it is like I'm opening the comic. It's like that feeling that I had when I first heard about this as a kid. When it's like, wait a minute, my favorite X-Men characters that I read about every 2 weeks on a Tuesday when they come out are now fighting Street Fighter and Mega Man and all these, like, and it's so good. It's just as good as I remember. Like, how a lot of times we play these retro games and it's like, it was great as a kid, doesn't hold up. This absolutely holds up. It's still awesome. Oh, it's so good, man. In addition to that, dude, they have a game in there. Like, a lot of the games, because this is the fighting collection, in a lot of ways, all the games that are included built up to Marvel vs. Capcom 2, because they have like smaller games like Marvel Superheroes, which is like 8 Marvel characters, a battler, or X-Men Children of the Atom, which is like a 6-player X-Men, like smaller fighting games. But like, so I probably won't play those because all the characters plus more are in Marvel vs. Capcom and Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which is like, the best one of the franchise. But they also have this game, The Punisher, which I don't like. I remember Punisher games on the NES, which were kind of like, meh, like we've seen and all that. But I don't think I've ever heard of this game. But it's like a side-scrolling beat-em-up in the same vein as Streets of Rage. Dude, I ran through 2 levels. I was just sucked in playing it this morning. I just wanted to check it out. And now I'm like, I need to grab Zeke to play with me. He can be Nick Fury. We can go in this battle. It's just like, always what I wanted.
Yeah, dude, one of my favorite games that we haven't gotten into yet, one of my favorite games, beat 'em up wise, is Maximum Carnage on Genesis, which is the SNES port too. Maybe you played it as an SNES kid, but yeah, that's a fucking incredible beat 'em up game that I cannot. Actually, it's in my. The reason I don't have the cart yet is because it's expensive as fuck. That red one, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy one that's not the red one. And it's expensive as fuck. So I haven't gotten it. But yeah, that's a game I both want to buy and cannot wait to play for the game because I never beat it. It's hard as fuck, and I never beat it. So that's something I want to get back into. But yeah, anyways, and those games, if done well, are those characters rather. Even Spider-Man, I don't really give a fuck about Spider-Man. I mean, Venom and Maximum Carnage was a cool storyline, and I actually did collect those comics those are probably the only Spider-Man. That, and then there was a Spider-Man Wolverine Wendigo storyline that bounced between Spider-Man issues and some X-Men issue or Wolverine issues or something that I collected and did some Spider-Man dabbling as a kid. And then there were some hologram ones too. And I can't remember what those were about, but they were hologram Spider-Man covers that for some reason, I just liked holograms that I bought. I don't even remember what the storylines were. But yeah, I've never been a Spider-Man storyline fucking person. And still a great fucking game.
Oh, so good. So good. Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. Like I like the idea of Punisher, but like I didn't read his comics like that. But this is just kind of what I wanted as a kid. Like, give me a side-scrolling, really well done, cool looking sprite, big sprite beat 'em up with comic book characters. I'm in. So awesome collection. I'm gonna be playing this so much whenever I'm in for the mood for a fighting game. Jumping into that, dude. I'm so excited. So what about you? That's it. Between those 3 games, that has sucked up all of my time.
No time.
Yeah.
I have been Skydance's Behemoth has been the big story game that I have been playing on Quest, and I beat it. I got all the way to the end, and I had a great experience. Fucking very enjoyable. You know, that the battle mechanics shit with like, it just was good. It was just a good game, and like I said, I had some apprehensions early on that felt, I don't know. It's like it's certainly not the most polished, like AAA type. It's definitely not Asgard's Wrath or even close to probably, but it was good. I enjoyed it. It was in a game I would have recommended playing at any point throughout. So I get it. I get all the way to the end boss, like this king character that's kind of been like dancing in and out of your storyline the whole time. And you thought I don't know, that's a little spoily, I guess, but you gotta be a moron not to see it coming. So like, he's been like your ally at the start, and then you find out he's like trying to use you for something, and you get to the end, and I beat those 3 behemoths. I don't even know I don't think I'd played the 3rd like behemoth boss yet prior to the last time we recorded. So I beat that, and that was, he was like a land-based thing, and you had to like, it was, that was amazing. Like, you had to like fucking work your way up his whole body. It's like just so huge, dude. And like, again, so well done. Like the scale of those boss battles, so good. So that was fantastic. There's 3 of those, and then you have like an end run thing, and you get into this final boss, and he's just a fucking like a normal kind of fucking. He doesn't. I thought for sure there would be like some sort of something that turned like a phase where he like became some big thing, and you had to do an epic thing like that as the final boss. They didn't. Here's the thing. Maybe I'm wrong in that, but I don't think so. So right before I get to that battle, there's these, like the way the upgrade tree for this game is, there's these forges, and you are constantly gathering this certain type of metal that you smelt, and then you like put either your sword, all your special weapons. You have a sword, you get an axe, you get a bow, and any one of those 3, all 3 of those things have like an upgrade tree to them, and you set them on this fucking, I don't know, this thing that you then close the fucking whatever down onto, and then you put the metal into it, and it smelts the metal, and it bonds to the fucking thing. It opens back up, and then it's pretty cool. Just a dumb little thing, but you got to take the hammer, and you got to hammer the fucking the shit like a blacksmith, hammer the thing, and you got the further down the tree is, the more hammering you have to do, and it's dumb, but it actually is fun, interesting, cool, busy work. I think that's kind of interesting. It makes you feel like you're doing the work of making the upgrade, as opposed to just, you put it in, now it's better, So it is kind of a cool mechanic. I kind of like that. But I go in to this, and it's like, I'm pretty, I think you can even see the king from the room. So it's like the one right before. So it's like, okay, I'm doing my final upgrade here. So I put my sword into the fucking thing, and I can't remember what I did. I did something goofy that was a little weird. I think maybe I tried to put a second weapon in. Like, I put the sword in, and I was like, no, I don't want to do an upgrade to that. And I just put another weapon in without taking the sword back out. and it like glitched. The sword disappeared. And I was like, I didn't even like, because anytime you like, you can throw your weapons and shit. So anytime you like lose your weapon, it just eventually goes back to the sheath, you know? So I didn't even think about it. Right, yeah. I assumed it was in my sheath. I do the upgrade of the bow or whatever the fuck else is I did, and axe maybe. And then I go in to do the battle, and I don't have the sword. I no longer have like the badass hero sword. I still got some swords, because you like, not only do you have your main weapons, you like, as you kill, you could also use just like dumbass enemies' weapons, but you kill these mini bosses, and you can pick up their cool weapons too, and there's like a whole weapon room that you can go in and like figure out secondary weapons, and they're all kind of different and shit. So I had a couple secondary swords. So I go in and I do the battle. I fucking, it took me a few times. It was actually a pretty cool battle, even though it wasn't a big huge thing. It was just a normal sword fight. Mm-hmm. I go in, I kill him, or I finish him off, and he like goes down to his knees. And he's like kind of like leaning back with his chest out like this, and it's like, I think the woman who's like, she's your mom becomes like your like guiding whatever, your fucking Navi from Legend of Zelda, Pixie telling you to do shit. She's like, finish him off, plunge your sword into his chest. So I'm like, I stick the sword I'd killed him with into the chest. And it just goes in his chest, and he's just fucking wiggling. And he's like, he's not dying. I'm like, what the fuck? And then she says it again, like, you gotta stick your sword into him and kill him. And I'm like, I did that. I'm like, I take the other sword I had out, that's not the main sword, stick that in him too. And then he's got two swords sticking out of him, but he doesn't die. And it just sits there and keeps going forever. Or multiple minutes, not forever. I eventually got tired of it. I was like, fuck this, whatever. I'm not going to sit here forever, even though it won't go to the end of the game now. Or, here's the thing, I said maybe after that, there's a second phase, but I never got to it, where he becomes this big epic thing that maybe is a cool boss battle. So maybe I'm wrong in that, but it seemed like it was just killing him. I don't know. Or would have killed him. But, yeah, I don't have my sword. I don't have my main sword, and that's what you gotta plunge into him, apparently, to end the game.
Oh, man.
So, I'm like, what the fuck, right? So I'm like, well, that's fucking dumb.
You gotta save,
whatever.
Save? Can you go back?
Well, right, so I fucking, exactly. I turn it off, I load, I assume maybe it's just a glitch that fixes itself when I load back up. I load back up, nope, sword's still gone. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like looking in the room that I was in, I can't find it.
It's not still in the forge?
No, because I put another weapon in there and upgraded it, so it just is gone, or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's sitting behind it and I can't get back there. I don't know. But like, fuck, I don't have the sword, so I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm reading online, and like, there was no quest stuff that was exactly that glitch, but there was things about losing your weapon and like it just being gone, and you have to load. So I'm like, what the fuck? So like, thankfully, I'd had that Asgard's Wrath problem where I learned after fucking myself and not being able to go back because I'd waited too long, that there is that cloud-based thing where you can roll your saves back and shit. So I'm like, oh, you fucking pricks. So I'm going to waste time out of my life to do some shit again whenever my last save state was. There's a save state in the cloud from like a week ago or something, so it wouldn't even have been right at the end, or at least in my mind, but I roll it back to that, and I don't know. I can't even remember where it was now. I think it might have been where I don't know, whatever it was. I rolled it back and I still didn't have the sword. And I was like, oh my God, what? You gotta be fucking kidding me. So like, I beat the game, and to be honest with you, I don't really care what happens at the end of that game, unless there is a boss battle I missed. I hadn't even thought of that as a possibility until we were talking now. Mm-hmm. If I missed that and that is fucking cool, I gotta Google a video now, because I might start sending some angry emails if that's the case. If I missed out on content, like actual gameplay because of this, I might be irate. I don't really care enough about the story. It wasn't that fucking great where I was like, oh, I gotta know. I know what happens. Or I know what happened already. It's not even, you're just playing out an already told story really at that point in the game. So, it was annoying, but yeah, I hadn't thought of that possibility that I actually missed a boss battle. So whatever. Eventually, I just gave up and was like, fuck it, and deleted this game and moved on to the next thing, which I'd actually bought, when the same time I bought this, Metro was for sale, which was the game I just texted you guys about, which is apparently a book a novel that was actually a really, like, I don't know if it was a bestseller or not, but it was enough of a successful book, or series of books even, maybe, that they made a video game out of it. It's like a licensed property. Metro 2033, the game's called, or the book is called. And this is, apparently there's been a few games too, I think, flat screen games. And this is a from the ground up VR build of, I don't even know if it's a new game or one of the other games, whatever, but it is built for VR. So you can feel that in it for sure. It's very Fallout. It's like dystopian, as the name would suggest. Very similar. There was a nuclear deal. This is set in Russia, though. So this is like from an all Russian perspective. And, you know, everyone kind of they still speak English, but it's like with a shitty Russian accent, or not shitty, Russian accents. And so that's kind of interesting. And just that, you know, instead of this fucking American perspective, it's a U.S. or a Russian perspective. So that's kind of an interesting story thing. But it's all set. The reason it's called Metro is it's set in like where people have where they went in the cities and kind of built an underground shelter is not these bunker things like Fallout, but they went into the metro, the subway tunnels and built a fucking living infrastructure down there. So that's where it all takes place. And there's all these mutant things that are out, you know, they've built like fucking, you know, they're constantly attacking, and it's like an ongoing thing to be dealing with these mutants and shit. And for reasons the game gets you into, you have to kind of adventure out from your character, who's just a doctor, he's like a savvy dude, but he's not like a warrior or anything, you know. So it's a little bit of a fish out of water, kind of got to become exceptional, semi-normal guy kind of idea, and you got to go out, at least here in the beginning. I'm in chapter 2 of however many chapters at this point, and you got to go out and like. It's one of those games, it's Resident Evil-y in that you don't have enough resources. I think I was saying this in the chat too. It's like, you don't have enough. It's not that you don't have enough, it's just that you're always on the edge of not having enough. So you always have the feel that you need to not do the easiest thing. You need to conserve for the next situation that's going to be worse for sure, you know? Mm-hmm. So, and that's very Resident Evil-y, and I respect that, but Resident Evil on a flat screen is one thing, but like Biohazard on PSVR had this. It's like, in VR, man, you got to do it. It's a really hard, like some of those, Oblivion Wraith's game I played that I just could not finish because you don't even have offense in that game. That was one of those games that's just like total horror where you're like just constantly running. You have no safe, you're never safe, and it's like, I cannot play a game like that. It is like, you know, Subnautica. I need to be able to get into the base and fucking cool off, man. I cannot be constantly under fire and have no repercussion to like fend this shit off. It's just, I just can't believe there's anyone who enjoys that feeling at all times while they're playing a video game. And it's not that bad. You obviously have guns and you can, you know, there are moments. It does shift kind of between like these battle moments where you're under duress and like kind of puzzly stuff where, you know, the music fades and you know you're safe and you can kind of cool off a little bit, which maybe sounds tip of handy, but again, like I said, I welcome it. So it's not like it's constantly that way, but it is a very fucking senses saturating experience, you know, that I can't just keep playing. I keep taking breaks from it. Like, it's fun, it's good, it's very engaging, but, you know, then there's like total stealth moments too. Like I'm in this place now in 2 where like it's not even mutants, it's like human like a raider type. They're like, you know, some sort of human outfit that I gotta like sneak by.
Always gotta watch out for the humans in these situations, man.
Right, yeah, they're worse than the mutants. Yeah, so it's like this fucking sneak around deal and that shit too, like, and it's, you know, like, I love the idea of Metal Gear, but I've never even allowed myself to really try. I had one on PSP, and I remember I kind of liked it, but same thing, I'd kind of like, I don't even know what you want me to do here, and it's not like, it's not that, like, I know what I need to do, I just don't know how to do it within your fucking UI, you know what I mean? And like, that's annoying. That's not satisfying gameplay, and I don't want to look it up. but I don't want to just keep bumping my head against the wall to figure it out. So there's that paired with, again, the onslaught of just like constantly being under duress and I don't have enough bullets and yada, 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 that it's a little bit of friction, but one, if you like that stuff, it's fantastic. It's got, I mean, the mechanics with the guns and it's VR to fuck and you feel all that. You gotta like, there's all these cool ass things. Like, I've never seen anything like it actually. It's a super cool, I don't know, game mechanic. So, you know, it's this outdated Russian technology in all these old places that you're going through. So like shit's constantly out of power. So you have this like, you have a backpack, you literally take off your back and like all your shit's there on the backpack so you can look at it and you grab it. And it's one of the things that you start with is like this crank generator thing. So you take it and you have to like take the little metal contacts and like a jumper cable type things, put them onto the positive and the negative of these various mechanical things that you want to have some power, recharge them, and then you got to like crank the thing and you watch the meter go up and until it gets to the right power setting or power amount, you got to keep cranking. And like you could like I said, there's moments where it slows down where you're doing this kind of thing where you know you don't necessarily have a threat, but there's times where you could do it to make your situation better. Lights come on or so you can see better or whatever it is while you're still under duress. So like, you know, it's a cool mechanic that they employ in a lot of different puzzle solving ways already even. That's very interesting. And, you know, say like to heal yourself, you're not just, you have this like serum gun that you take out off your chest and like jam it into your hand and actually heal yourself with, and you can watch the little vial go down in the gun after you pull the trigger and like shit like that. And then the different guns, of course. I told you I smashed my fucking hand the other day because I ran out of bullets. And I, like, didn't know what to do because I was out of bullets. And it was the first time that it happened. So I wasn't even sure if I could do damage. But I just, like, frantically, this fucking thing is attacking me. And I just frantically start slamming the butt of the gun, in my head anyways. What I'm actually doing is just wagging my hand around in my living room at God knows what. You know, dumbass VR style. And smashed my fucking... It still hurts a little bit. It definitely wasn't broke, but I thought maybe it was. I was icing it afterwards on this fucking hard-ass fucking dining room table, which I will never let be. I've hit that table so many times. I smashed playing bowling when I first got the thing, I remember. I fucking have smashed my hand on that table so many times. The fact I don't push it away from my play space before I play is so lazy and moronic of me. So I will never do that again. I will always push that table before I play an intense VR game again. But yeah, anyways, the whole point being, very good, very intense. Absolute terror at all fucking times. If you're into that sort of thing, awesome game. Looks fucking beautiful, sounds fucking great, controls fucking awesome, everything great. Like very AAA feeling, you know. There's no, like Behemoth had a little bit of like VR jank to it. Yeah. This is like clean as fuck, like super fucking clean. I can't think of the studio name off the top of my head, but it was like a studio I recognized, something with a V, some sort of Vertigo or some shit like that. That's like I think a pretty accomplished game studio. So not surprising. It feels AAA, I guess. But I think I even got it I think I got it on sale for $30. I think it's normally $40. I think I got it on sale for $30. So $30, great fucking deal for what it is. Again, if you can fucking endure the terror of it.
Yeah.
So that's the new big game. What were you gonna say?
Dude, no, the minute you said Metro and part of a series, I immediately in my mind saw Metro Redux. And like, yeah, I've seen that game on Xbox like all the time. Like I know it's like been a big thing with multiple versions, and yeah, it looks good. It looks good and terrible. I can only imagine, terrible meaning like terrifying, and I can only imagine being in VR and having to do it. That's a whole thing, man. Like I'd have to be.
It is, dude.
Whoa, I think I might have to.
It's high. It's fucking high octane, bro. It is so high octane. I mean, you know, it's like probably the first game I've played like this. Because Asgard's Wrath and Behemoth and shit, like, yeah, it's intense, but it's not, you know, it's not horror themed. They're not trying to always make you feel like you're fucking, you know, like, they're not trying to instill fear. They're trying to instill difficult, you know, I don't know, like fantasy, whatever. It's not fear. And the last game I played with this was probably Resident Evil 4, that remake. And that was awesome. But like I told you, like visually, not even, I mean, it was, you know, not built from the ground up for VR. Like I told you, I remember talking about the plants being like the two flat sprites, like on an act, you know, like it's not the same thing. This is like, yeah, built from the ground up to be a VR game, and they nailed it, absolutely nailed it.
Okay, all right.
Very fucking good, but again, just gotta take breaks because it's a lot, a whole lot.
I played that game and ended up like sweating all, just like stressed out.
Like given. So you're cleaning, got to take breaks and like clean your fucking headset off, the sweat and shit. It's fucking a lot. And like I said, I'm smashing my hands on things, and like I've been playing. It's not like that's the kind of thing you should be doing
if you're a VR rookie,
right?
Not you.
Maybe, whatever. First year, I played way too much VR to still be doing that shit, dude. It's insane. I mean, part of it is my space. I don't have a big enough. I'm going to rent a space. I'm going to have to rent a fucking dedicated VR space so I can do this safely. It's a big enough part of my life. I can 100% rationalize the expense. It's just the inconvenience. Maybe find a new unit in the condo building. Just buy a second unit as a VR. Gonna have to do a lot more CoStar bids to pull that off financially, but it's an aspiration. Nice. So yeah, that's the big thing. Still playing. We're not playing it as much because it's the same kind of thing. It's just fucking too intense. Like some nights you get home and it's like, I can't do this cookout shit right now. It's too fucking hard, and I don't feel like yelling right now and sweating. So that is present with the experience, but cookout fantastic. Like I've actually gotten into. That's like a co-op endeavor that Amy and I are doing. I've actually gotten into playing it a little bit one player because there's this creative mode. I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but there's a creative mode where you build your own. You don't build your own sandwiches. There's it's like a list of objectives. Like I don't even know how many recipes. Fucking, I don't know, 80 or something. And they're like guessing games, kind of like they'll give you like some clues or what they like give you a name for it. So like the name means something, and then it'll tell you like. Either some of the ingredients, always some of the ingredients, but they'll tell you some ingredients and then maybe some clues about what the other ingredients should be or how they should be prepared. And then again, the name, like I said, is always a clue as to what you should be putting in it. But you're basically just guessing. It's a guessing game kind of trying to build the sandwich that they're asking you to build. And it's like, it's totally freeform. Like it's not timed. You're literally just like, taking ingredients and trying to it's like little mini puzzles, and it's super gratifying or satisfying rather to play as a one player thing. So I've kind of been firing up at times to just do that and just like try to figure out what these sandwiches are, and like some of them are insane, dude. Like some of them are like fucking 30 ingredients, the really hard ones. So it's just a fun spin on that game UI, like instead of the timed like chaos of what cookout normally is.
Yeah.
Right. It's just kind of a more relaxed, subdued experience in that fun space and UI, which is cool. So been doing that some. And then Townsman VR, which I've talked about a bunch. It's a real-time strategy. I keep just wandering my way back to it. And again, when I want to just see that I haven't picked up Humanity in a while, that Lemmings game, because I'm at a point in that's fucking super hard and I can't figure it out. So I've kind of gravitated towards this as my just sit and chill thing. And I'm actually on the last level now. So unfortunately that experience is going to be over, but I keep playing that. So that's the bulk of the stuff I've actually been doing. A cool random thing that I found, just stumbled into recently. I had the idea of I started watching that video. The problem was I found that fucking Innie Austin guy I've been posting about on YouTube. And he has those videos that are the fucking unemployment surveys. He goes into the Skyrim towns and conducts, it's a whole like role play thing where he's like a Bureau of Labor Statistics representative, and he's going into these towns and polling all the residents to find out the unemployment rates. So he like takes, he's a funny. I can't believe that I'm watching every one of his videos. I'm thinking about supporting him on Patreon. Like I don't watch like random ass YouTube stuff really.
What?
I kind of watch LGR. The Lazy Game Reviews guy, he's an interesting kind of just YouTube video guy that I'll watch. His like PC games and shit, but I don't watch a lot of that stuff. I stumbled into this guy off a Blue Sky post, and he is fucking great, dude. He is so fucking funny. He's got such an incredible delivery and just like delivery style, I guess I should say. And I don't know. I'm just really fucking vibing on him. So I watch all his videos. His best ones, though, and you can see when he started doing them, his account blew up. He's got like 700,000 subscribers now. He's like a fucking huge YouTube deal. And it happened when he came up with this idea. And yeah, he's like going into the Skyrim towns, and he's done them all at this point. And he like, sometimes like the people are physically working, so he can just be like, okay, you're employed, sir, obviously, moving on. But sometimes it requires some interpretation based on what they say or what they're doing or who they're with or where they're at, and it's like, he's a very comedic way of determining these. And then, so he goes and polls every resident in town, and then he does like a press conference where he analyzes the data and explains what he thinks it means about the town's future and its economic status and shit. And it's just, again, it's right there adjacent to my dumbass economic analysis idea. So part of it maybe is just respect of the economic component of these video games. But there's he also has ones I sent to you guys too. He like did this one of like, he took the Skyrim map and basically tried to figure out the source of the water, the rivers, basically. Like, basically going up each river, up as best he could interpret, which, as you might imagine, a video game is not perfect in that. And basically trying to find the origin water source in Skyrim that fuels the entire river system, So, like, basically just dissecting these games in a real world way, or the world of these games in a real world way that is really interesting and smart and funny. And yeah, I'm just fucking completely fixated on him. And I'm even watching his dumbass videos now where he does these 5-minute game reviews where he grades games on a 2-point scale, and it's either a 0, 1, or 2, and they're just like, he's super funny in the way he does that. I watched a 9-minute video the other day where he picked in Red Dead Redemption 2, he picked a random ass person and just followed them the whole fucking day just to see what the fuck they did, like their loop of behavior. Yeah. And you just shit like that, where he just takes these really obscure ideas. He did one on one of the Fallout games, Fallout 3, where he tried to figure out where every warhead fell on the map by like analyzing craters and shit like that. He's done the unemployment stuff in Fallout games too. Like, just really smart ass fucking game content. And I hate even using that word, but super interesting. But watching those got me on a Skyrim kick. And anytime people get my fucking Skyrim biscuits burning, I start thinking about maybe trying to play it. And so I was maybe thinking about trying to get a way to play Skyrim on my Quest in VR, which is super achievable, of course. But in doing that, I found this thing called Skyblivion. It's this fucking project where they've been working on it for a while. It's actually supposed to drop in 2025. I can't imagine it'll actually happen on their predicted timetable just because of the magnitude of what they're trying to do here. But what have I been talking about to you since we started this podcast, or we started working on this podcast together? I want to play Skyrim. When's the next Skyrim happening, Jay? When are they going to give me my next Skyrim? I've been asking for that. So this might be a solution to that, because I've never played any of the previous Elder Scrolls games. None of them. I never played Oblivion. I never played.
Really?
I don't even know. I don't even know what they're called.
Skyrim by itself?
Yeah, I'd never even heard of it prior to Skyrim. I didn't have. My PS3 was the first time I had gotten an Xbox or a PlayStation. Mm-hmm. I had a Wii.
That's right. We had GameCube when we were roommates.
Right, right, exactly. So I'd never played any of those. I didn't even know they existed. And none of those PlayStation, Xbox games. It's not into them. That's probably why I don't play Grand Theft Auto or any of those games, because it wasn't part of that fucking ride. So I never played any of these, and yes, this is called Skyblivion, and they're taking the entire Elder Scrolls Oblivion game, and they are from the ground up building that in the Skyrim engine. So yeah, incredible idea. Obviously, insanely huge project, and they got a website. You can support it. I mean, I'm probably going to end up doing that too now that I found this, because I obviously want it to happen. But it basically will give me a new Skyrim game from the ground up in the Skyrim engine. And that's what I want. I want a fucking story to play in that world, again, or from anew, And I think this, if they finish it, would be it. And that's fucking hot. So, yeah, actually, so I what actually sent me down the road was like, okay, I can play Skyrim, but I don't want to fucking play Skyrim again for like the 80th time. So what other thing can I now play in VR that I love that's like that? Bethesda shit. So I was looking at Fallout options, and it's shockingly, as much as a following or interest as Fallout has, no one's done that the way they've done it for Skyrim. There's been like attempts. There are, of course, like these things that exist. It's possible, but it's janky. It's not polished. You gotta like fucking cobble together a bunch of mods and stuff. And I can't even
That's too much.
wrap my head. I can't wrap my head around the mod shit. It just, I know it's I'm sure I'm capable of it. I was able to make Subnautica happen with like mods and shit in Steam. I know I could probably do it, but it's an exhausting idea to go down the road of. As bad as I want it, as much as I would love to play Fallout New Vegas in VR, I don't know. I don't think I have the fucking deodorant to enough deodorant to fucking get through that process. So yeah, it's not as clean as doing it. And I guess Skyrim's a lot simpler to make that happen. So that's what actually sent me down the road, and that's how I found Sky Oblivion. So yeah, look that up if you're an Elder Scrolls person. Maybe we all need to support these motherfuckers and get it done, because that would be an incredible thing to have available. Did you play any of those games? The prior ones?
No. Like I still own like Skyrim. Like I still actually own that like regularly, and
well, Skyrim doesn't
I think I have
count.
it on
I'm saying the ones previous.
PS4 VR.
The previous ones though.
But no other ones. Like I've never. ESO was my introduction to Elder Scrolls.
Okay.
Outside of people like you and Jesse and other people like raving about Skyrim. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've read that they're actually like they're better story wise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you could make the experience of playing them fantastic, I've watched videos of 3 and 4, Oblivion and whatever the other one is, and it looks rough. So as much as I love
ride as well, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, as much as I love and can even tolerate maybe like retro-y stuff, that when I think of retro is a sprite based flat thing, like when you try to like that early stage 3D shit is fucking
it's rough,
like,
dude.
It's like PS1 is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Like PS1 is the absolute trashest fucking game era in the history of gaming, you know? So yeah, the idea of going back to that tier of 3D environment to experience a story I'm sure I would love, I don't know if I have the fucking wherewithal for it.
Dude, you hit the nail on the head. I feel the exact same way. It's like, give me the flat screen sprites, give me that 8-bit, 16-bit, like that kind of stuff. And then I need you to jump forward. I need you to just jump forward so that everything's smooth when we're going into 3D and all that. Like that. Yeah.
I can because I was there, and I'm sure it may not be in a majority nostalgia feeling it, but like Diddy Kong Racing, like I think Diddy Kong Racing is fantastic. My mission in life is defending it on the internet that it's better than Mario Kart. You know, so like there are games from that era that I think are still fantastic, but and like I like the Banjo-Kazooies, and those are like the epitome of the earliest 3D whatever. Annie Austin does a lot of good videos on Banjo-Kazooie too, by the way. But fucking, you could tell he got into it. 64 and GameCube were his like formative years. You can see there's a lot of that in his shit. He does a lot of Zelda stuff too. But anyways, those games I enjoy, but if I think I had never played them at the time, it would probably be really hard to revisit them, you know. Even the Zeldas, I mean, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, like I've tried to play those out of nostalgia on emulation, and like, dude, can't really do it.
I was telling my son the exact same thing this morning. Like, there's just some of these games back from there, like they just don't hold up graphically. I go back and I look at them. It's the same way I think about Bond 007. Like 007 GoldenEye was the shit back in the day. Yeah. Loved it. It was awesome. But even like the re-release, just a re-release, not upgrade anything, that came out a couple years ago, I looked at it and I was just like, I played it and I was like, this was awesome back in the day, but this is that. Part
of it too for that, I have tried to play that. I don't think I tried that re-release. They probably fixed all this and it's probably fine on an Xbox controller, but trying to emulate GoldenEye, like, yeah, dude, I played the fuck out of GoldenEye. I would love, and I still even enjoyed it because of just, oh my God, so much nostalgia for that game. We played so much multiplayer of that and da. But like, dude, without an N64 controller, like an actual N64 controller to play that game with, it's impossible, I think, to really enjoy it and be good at it. Like, I had worked out a way to play it on that handheld, the last handheld emulator I had. Mm-hmm. But, like, without a fucking trigger and a stick, and like the C buttons and shit, like, without the exact thing, it's impossible to come up with a good mapping thing onto a normal dual analog. It's just impossible, in my opinion. So, yeah, I just was never able to play a lot of those games because there's just no way to map an N64 controller other than an N64 controller, for those games. You get like some of the like Mario 64. I played. That's good, of course, still, right. And that is a simple enough game where, as far as controls go, anyways, where you can map it to a normal controller and work through it. But yeah, there are games like that, GoldenEye and some others that it just doesn't work without an N64 controller, So. Anyhow, that's it for games. The last thing I have, of course, is my update of my Uncanny X-Men quest. I read the 1982 Wolverine miniseries, the 4-issue deal, his first solo venture, while I was sitting around on set this week, actually, and ended up having, remember, if you recall, maybe last episode, I said I was curious to know whether it would kind of like how it worked into the existing Uncanny X-Men storyline that he's obviously an every issue participant in, like how it would, correlate. And zero. They can't even be happening. It's impossible for them to be happening at the same time even. So I don't even know. Maybe theoretically it's happening in the past. It's not maybe it's like a looking back at a point in his life. That maybe makes sense, I suppose. But it's definitely not happening while like what's happening now in I'm in the Brood, the Brood, how do you say that? Brood storyline. Their first one. And that's like a fucking, I feel like it's been like 6 or 7 issues, like a huge story arc. Mm-hmm. And he's in fucking space the whole time. There's no way he can be in Japan, too. So there's just no way that they have anything to do with each other. So I don't know if they were meant to or not, or if you're supposed, clearly they're not meant to, but whatever. They have nothing to do with each other. I was kind of disappointed in that. I kind of wanted there to be some, like, oh, he's popping out to do his own thing and like some overlap Venn diagram wise. Not the case. So I was bummed about that. So yes, I think I'm going into the last issue. I think it's 166, I want to say, in Uncanny. Oh, and yeah, I think it's the end of the Brood storyline. And if you don't know the Brood storyline, it's like every creative property of the time, and that it's directly ripped from the 1979 Alien film. Yes. As far as like the design of the aliens and like the fact that their whole thing is like or like using human beings as host vessels for their reproductive process and shit. So it's all in there, like with just unabashedly ripping from Aliens. So whatever, they're not new and are unique in doing that. But of course, it's like fucking come on, man. Yeah. Like at least like to change something, like put some sort of creative difference in there that it's just not so glaringly apparent what you're doing. But again, they are not alone in that crime. So whatever. It's beating a dead horse to bitch about that probably as far as that goes. But yeah, they're all, and whatever, fuck you if it's spoiling anything, but they're like, they infected the whole team unbeknownst to them somehow or another. I can't remember how that would have been possible, but they were all infected one way or another, or not infected, but implanted with an egg. It's like a queen egg too, in particular. It's going to like, and the whole idea is the reason the Brood wanted to do it was because these eggs are able to, or the organisms developing the eggs are able to pull from the host, like their powers or their genetic makeup in some way. So the idea in impregnating the whole X-Men team is that it would create this like super line of aliens, which is a cool idea. I guess that's a little different. But of the X-Men, like I said, they don't even know. Somehow Wolverine finds out because his healing factor killed the egg, and he knew that somehow. I can't remember how that happened or how he figured that out. But so basically, he's gonna live. He knows that, and he can't. This is kind of cool too, in that he knows what's happening. He doesn't know how to tell everyone while they're in this like really tenuous situation. They're trying to fucking escape from him and then deal with whatever the fuck else is going on. So like he's aware of everyone else is kind of fucked, and he doesn't know how to tell them. And then him and Scott are at odds about him and Cyclops are at odds about killing the fucking Brood queen that they have an opportunity to, because Scott's a fucking cunt and he doesn't want to kill anything. And Wolverine's like, fuck them, like, they're horrible, fuck you, let's kill them. And what he's really trying to do is exact revenge on the Brood for the rest of the team because he knows that they're fucked. And he's like, at least you can get back at them. Let's kill them. Even though I don't know how to tell you why you should feel that way. It's a mildly complex emotional thing that these comics don't always have in them to this point. So that is kind of cool, and I like that. But yeah, Storm just went off to commit suicide. And clearly that's not going to stick. I know that's not going to stick, but I don't know how it's not going to stick. She knows once he tells everyone that they're infected, and Storm, the reason that he ends up telling them ultimately is because Storm has it's starting to gestate or something, and she realizes that, and he has to explain it to them because he has no choice. Wolverine, I mean. So she knows this, and she just freaks out because she's even more high and mighty about this than Cyclops as far as killing things, because she's a nature goddess or whatever. So she just goes up, steals a fucking, I don't know, a spaceship, a fucking emergency life raft spaceship, and shoots out into space to kill herself because she doesn't want this thing she doesn't want to kill it, and she doesn't want to have it kill them, So she goes off and literally just couldn't even explain what they were showing me. They were she does this nature supernova thing and just murks herself. And the last you see of her in this last issue, she's just fucking dead. And we cut back to the other team. It's okay, bye, Storm. Fucking cuts back to the team for the ending of the last issue. So yeah, super heavy shit, man. Pretty fucking wild.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, so interesting, good storyline, I suppose. So that's another one that's pretty good, relatively speaking. That is exciting, I suppose. But there's a lot of weird shit, dude. The craziest thing going on right now is, it's been going on for a while. This Kitty Pryde fucking Colossus shit it's fucked up, dude. Kitty Pryde's 14. And
dude,
yes, Colossus is young. He's 19 or something, right. But he's a fucking adult. And there is a romantic thing happening with Kitty Pryde and him. And it'd be one thing if it was just happening. And we're turning a blind, it's a different time. Right. I guess. It's the early 80s. I don't think fucking statutory rape was cool then either. It might have been at the time still maybe a joke or something. I remember some jokes on the frat house wall at Delta Chi about 16 and consensual shit in the state of Ohio being okay, and that's a joke, as wrong as it is. But whatever, just, different fucking times, different perspectives on things, maybe. But they're acknowledging it. It's this last issue, they're talking about the fact that she's a kid and he is not, and then they make out immediately after. And they make it okay. They try to make it okay because they know they're about to die, supposedly, because of the fucking thing. So fuck it she literally says, who cares about society's rules or something? We're gonna die, or I don't want to die, but we're gonna die anyways. And they make out. It's just what the fuck is happening here? Yeah, that's the fucking wildest thing going on that I just cannot believe. It's been they've already made out a few times, so you already fucking whatever. It's in motion. This train's in motion already. It's not this is new information, or them making out is new. So that's happened a couple times already. But this, like I said, it took it up a notch for them to talk about it and then make out anyways. Super heavy, I think. So fucking wild. Really wild. Whatever. Really fucking wild thing going on. So that's, one crazy thing. The Cyclops dad showing back up shit is going on. Corsair has came back. So there's so that's probably the most interesting thing I've ever seen Cyclops fucking boring ass do, is have to deal with this dad shit that he didn't know who his dad was. And then now the dad's coming back into the picture, and Storm knew that he was his dad because they bumped into the Starjammers previously, many issues back. And she promised not to tell Cyclops that he was his dad. And then Cyclops finds out that Storm knew, so that's also kind of a complex thing, So, that was kind of interesting, and that's kind of interesting. So there's been some cool shit going on. But yeah, that fucking Colossus Kitty Pryde shit is nuts.
I always thought about that, and I was so this, yeah, to your point, different time and all, but it's still just watching it, it's or reading it, it's kind of all right, so am I supposed to just think of this as this is my friend's little sister, my best friend's little sister, just all right, you just had to. Yeah, that's the thing. They keep. Well, they keep. That's the fucking weird thing about it too is,
again, he knows. They know he knows in particular that it's bad because they keep oscillating between them making out and him being this kind of like big brother figure for her when she's upset or trying to protect her, you know, and like, sure, that's a romantic role as well for if your significant other or someone you want to be your significant other is to be protective of her also, sure, in traditional masculine roles, but it's not portrayed as relationship-y when those are happening. It's very much like Nightcrawler is also protective of her, and then like her and Colossus are talking about Wolverine too. They're all protective of her, of course. Right. So like, they're like, the three of them are like talking about like this big brotherly role that they're all kind of playing, and then Colossus walks over and makes out with her 5 minutes later, you know? So like, it's just fucking weird, man. It's a fucking really weird vibe that if you'd asked me coming into this to predict that was going to be a thing in this fucking comic series, that would have been the last fucking thing I predicted would be fucking Colossus teetering on statutory rape for fucking 20 issues.
Wild times, man. Wild times.
Yeah, super wild times.
Wild times in 79.
Yeah, this is 82. So
oh,
it's not quite 79. Yeah, 79 was when Alien came out. That's why that's exactly what they're ripping off. It's 3 years later. They've been talking about doing this for 3 years, ripping off Alien since they saw the movie. So, yeah, fucking wild.
The story, also known as the main theme of this, bringing us into this episode.
In days of yore, a temple that towered up to the sky was the hiding place of the Stone of the Wise, a symbol of power. Legend has it that the one succeeded in taking the stone to the top of the towering temple, which doesn't, I hope I fucked that up. That doesn't exactly work as a sentence, but the skyscraper would be awarded the power to rule over the earth. People and demons had been in a relationship of peaceful coexistence on Earth. And relationship, maybe relationshit, am I right? However, the demons decided they would bring Earth under their control by obtaining the Stone of the Wise. If they were not stopped before they brought the Stone of the Wise to the top of the temple, Earth would come under the rule of the demons. And that's why you have to be a perceptive and strong-willed individual about getting into relationships with irrational beings, human or not. No matter how cool or attractive they might seem, they will just up and do very problematic shit without any warning, and that's no way to live a life, Jay.
Wise words.
Yes, important note, or important theme, this deep video game bringing to the surface here for us all to chew on a bit, I think. So it's good that we're learning the lesson. Back to the synopsis. Many people simply cowered in fear, but a young brave warrior rose up and headed for the temple, which the demons had turned into their lair. The young man's name was Rastan, and this was to be the first great test of a legendary hero whose name would be uttered with reverence by generations to come. So, I don't know if you're paying attention there, Jay, but that makes this a prequel, I think, not a sequel.
Odd choice, okay.
Important to note. A wise elder spoke to Rastan as he set off on his journey. There will be 5 barriers on your way, and each barrier contains 3 traps. It's interesting. I read this. I did not connect that they were telling us the entire structure of this video game.
I did. Yeah, for sure.
I didn't. I wrote this down clearly. I transcribed this from the fucking, or not transcribed, but fucking whatever. Rewrote this from the manual, and I still didn't fucking internalize that, and I was surprised when the game ended when it did. Foreshadowing. The first trap contains a band of lower and middle grade demons. The second trap contains a device. The third trap contains the guardian of the demons, whom you must meet in single combat. It is said that he is a very wily and evil foe. I have also heard that the guardian of the final barrier is the leader of the demons, an extremely formidable foe who has discovered the secret of eternal life. It is a fearful mission that you undertake, but you should be brave and set out. That is the story of Rastan Saga, the setup. What kind of game is that story setting up, Joe?
Easily a side-scrolling hack and slash arcade platformer. I mean, very, very straightforward arcade platformer.
Straightforward as fuck. A a fresh addition to our main quest here on the pod. It just hit in May of 1991, so we always call that the first of the month when no exact date is known, so we're calling it May 1st, 91. Happenings on that particular day, of note, my man Ricky Henderson, the late Ricky Henderson, broke the all-time MLB stolen bases record previously held by Lou Brock. 939 was the count for that. He finally did it in an Oakland A's, or Athletics, as the long form of that, uni, as it should have been. And the bonus plan is he did it against the Yankees. Fuck them, Jay. Big day for baseball, as Nolan Ryan also threw a 7th no-hitter at an age older than my decrepit ass, even. He was 44, and that is the oldest dude to ever pitch one, I believe, still to this day. Unless something's happened, the internet did not update. Unless this fucking hasn't been updated. Already said that. Don't read your notes. Do a podcast, Josh. None of these pansy-ass modern MLB pitchers could do 9 innings anyways, so I think it's highly unlikely. Ultimately, they fucking ain't no one getting fucking a full 9 innings in the modern game of baseball. So I think that's probably a pretty safe fucking thing.
Yep.
On the Billboard Top 100 front, we had Baby Baby by Amy Grant up top, which took me to a place, or second rather, to place, but when I pulled it up on YouTube, I was like, oh, yeah, okay, that song. Amy Grant means nothing to me, and Baby Baby is like in every song, so though none of those keywords hit, but when the second the fucking song started, I was like, oh, yeah, that fucking, okay. And then on the box office front, number 1 was Oscar. It was the movie that won the week. I'd never heard of it. Yeah, me either. It is a Sly Stallone, John Landis collaboration. That's fucking comedy legend John Landis, where Stallone is playing a gangster that is trying to go straight. And yeah, it's a comedy, like I said, that any Landis flick would be. So yeah, I hadn't heard of it. I will admit, I looked at the box cover and I put it on my to watch, because Sly Stallone playing comedy can work. That can work.
It can work.
I don't know if you've seen Demolition Man, but he can do comedy.
Wait, did you say you've never seen Demolition Man?
No, I said I don't know if you've seen Demolition Man. And I know you've seen Demolition Man. Oh, yeah. I'm saying that kind of rhetorically to the powers that be / audience, that if you haven't seen that, you should see it, because he can kill it when doing especially like, when he's kind of, I'm not gonna call him the straight man in that situation.
Straight man.
Right? Yeah, it's he's definitely playing for comedy, so it's not like it's happening around him in the way the straight man in some comedies can be. He's a part of it, and I want to credit him with that. But like I said, I think the funniest moment of any of his movies is in Rambo. I've said it before on this podcast. In Rambo 3, and when he clicks that, when he's talking about the blue light sticks to the fucking Afghan helper, like, oh, that's fucking gold movie comedy. It turns blue is fucking incredible. It's fucking an incredible moment in cinema history, and it's funny as fuck, and he's 100% in control of that moment. I mean, it's in the text, sure. He's certainly not improvising that to my expectation, but his delivery of it killed. So he's capable of comedy, and that makes me and John Landis also doesn't really have misses. So yeah, could work. Right. So I will watch that one day. Moving on to the artwork for the cover art, the first thing I thought when I started assessing this was that it certainly isn't the next generation Genesis game cover template, which had like the red spine that like the NBA Jam Mortal Kombat era kind of brought that in, kind of like the second tier of the marketing thing after, I'm spacing on the name of the CEO now, but once he comes in and kind of gets their marketing shit together, they switch the boxes up off from that Black Thatch shit, which I actually like more, but whatever. Different strokes for different folks, perhaps. So it's not exactly that, but I can absolutely see a creative meeting happening at Sega where this box is on the projector, and they're like, kind of like this. So I see that here to a degree. So I kind of, I'm making perhaps presumptive leaps to say it was an influence on that, but if you told me that was the case, it'd be very believable based on how this looks as far as the design goes.
Totally. I thought that when you went, like, seeing it as your background, I kind of thought like, oh, was that kind of one of the original?
This is the first one? Right, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't have the banding, like the candy cane banding, like those do, but again, it's in the fucking wheelhouse for sure. And the illustration on the front has Rastan in his barbarian loincloth, sword overhead in a parry position. And then the behemoth behind has very like respectful and cognizant of shieldless sword defensive tactics going on, like a kind of a parry defensive stance. I didn't know when I was writing this, but that's your ultimate high grade demon rather in the video game, the big bad boss in the game. And yeah, he's front and center like that, and it's 8-armed thing behind him, and there's kind of like a baby wooden block structure thing going on behind him, and there's like a northern light imbued night sky. So that's pretty cool. And like actually again, something I didn't note when doing the initial analysis because it's pre-playing the game. But in this game it's very simplistic in many ways. We will talk about that at length, of course. But it's the ground and the like wall. It's all the same in the whole game. Yeah. And like baby blocks is a great fucking. I didn't even think of it as baby blocks, but that's what it is. It works. It works for sure. So that was a good design choice too, probably. The back has the obligatory 3 screenshots, one bigger than the others, all huge sprite boss battles. Good job. That's probably, like we were talking yesterday via chat, that's probably easily this game's strong suit, is the large, cool sprites. Yeah. They kind of maybe have stiff movement animation, but as far as like still sprite work goes, pretty good. And they are accompanied by just fine unique pitch copy, wherein they call the arcade iteration one of the hottest video game titles to ever grace an arcade. And Taito, please put your dick away. There are children present. Manual, which is in the show notes, as I always do, is 20 black and white other than cover pages. Page 8 covers the weapon-wielding possibilities. These are acquired by picking up icons dropped by enemies. There is the normal sword and shield you start with, a long sword that looks like a big-ass barbarian sword Conan would roll with, and then there's the Iron Claw, which straight up looks like, speaking of ripping shit from comics or other properties, this is straight up some Wolverine shit, for sure. And there is a shit ton of items in a 3-page breakdown from 9 to 12. They're pretty fucking jumbled in the manual, so we can break them down into 3 categories, I think, to better talk about them. There are offensive pickups. There is the Crest of Flames, and when you get this, flames fly out from the end of the sword. It's like a traditional fireball projectile, I would say, and you can either do it standing or crouching, you know. They do not pass through environmental objects, though, so that's an important differentiation between that and the next one, which is the Crest of Lightning. And when you swing your sword out on this, a lightning, it's not a projectile, it's like an extension of your sword reach, dances from the end of the sword. And I like that's like the exact wording, it dances, because yeah, it does just kind of extend your reach. And the cool thing about that is you can murk things through obstacles with this. So you can stand on one side of a wall and kill an enemy on the other side of it without having to jump up and put yourself in danger, basically, which is a very cool benefit. Benefit is used loosely because I only saw any of these in the first world and never saw them again. So
I had the exact same criticism.
And like, I don't know. I mean, I shouldn't say. I know for a fact I got some pickups in the game from like randomly hitting nothing, you know? So sure, maybe I didn't do enough of that. Later on, level 1 is 1, easier, and 2, I'm still fence testing to feel out the game, so I'm thinking about that. By level 2, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and try to finish this video game. Fuck that shit. It's not that important, and it doesn't really affect things that much anyway, so fuck it. You know, so I don't know if those are present more frequently than I found, or apparently you found either, but it did feel like not much. So
dude, I didn't get... There was a moment when I put in my notes, like, what was it? Let me see. Was it level 4? Yeah, it was round 4. And I was like, oh, I finally got another pickup again. Like,
right. I might honestly have had the exact same experience, to be honest with
you. Dude, if this was any other game and we were, you know, like, that was, what's the right word? Immersive and, like, brought you in, then I'd probably be save stating, like, oh, I want to get that weapon. Let me restart. Let me just die and go back so I can get that weapon.
Get that, right.
I did not do that here because it wasn't necessary. Yeah. But I'm definitely
not a huge back at this. I mean, that shit's useful. Like the sword is great because it has way more reach.
Yeah,
it is. Awesome. It is. You do pay for that though. It's more cumbersome, so you swing slower. So I actually like that there's a trade off. You know, but yeah, they're seldom, and just ultimately the benefit, I guess, maybe is the point of what I'm saying, was not significant enough.
No,
that's not even the benefit. Again, like the moment to moment benefit is huge, but I guess the macro benefit of it and how it really affects your gameplay is not enough to warrant really caring about it, which not the greatest feel for power-ups. You should really want them, you know? Right. And that's not good.
You should want to go back and be like, I
Right.
I died.
This
I
was
gotta go
fucking
back and
awesome.
get that.
And I mean, honestly, if I could have found them more, the claws were fucking awesome. And yeah, I would have loved to probably, just because again, my affinity for Wolverine, even if nothing else, even if the game effect, I probably would have been more protective of them. But one, you lose the shit when you leave you don't keep them anyways. You lose them when you leave the stage, or even the area, not even the stage. So, it's just, you don't have them for that long. It's not a huge enough of an effect. Anyways, when you do, who cares, So that fucking sucks for power-ups. No question. The last offensive one is the Crest of Hegemony. And this is, I can't believe I didn't Google what hegemony means because I don't know. This is a kind of a gun.smoke smart bomb. Wastes everything on the screen at the time of pickup, which is funny because I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So there's a healing related group of pickups too. And it's kind of the same thing. So maybe I did get it and I just didn't notice. I don't know. But in the healing ones, there's one where you pick it up and it smart bombs everything and turns them into healing pickups. Like life that you pick up.
Oh, the Dark Jewel?
Starters.
I did not
Right.
see that one. I definitely picked up multiple healing things, though, for sure.
Okay. I definitely got that because, it turns them all into... And then the problem with that is, you're constantly scrolling that screen. So, like, when you pick it up, instantly later, there's more enemies on the screen in most cases. So then you're trying to frantically get those things before they disappear. Or maybe they don't disappear. I don't know, but I felt like I needed to.
Mm-hmm.
I know in my memory. So... you're kind of putting yourself at risk just to pick those things up, and maybe even neutralizing the benefit of them anyway. So I definitely remember having that whole emotional ride for sure. So I know I got the Dark Jewel, no question, a few times. So before we get to healing, though, there's defensive. There's the Fang of Hitler, which is a shield of sorts. It's made of skeletons flying around you. I got this late in the game for the first time, and they don't look like skeletons to me. They look like little blue balls. There's two of them. There's no where they're getting skeletons from. Maybe that was something that was like, it's in the arcade game.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And it's like, they're bringing the idea over here. They didn't change the copy to account for the fact that they couldn't visually support the change. And then there's the Cowl of the Wizard, which decreases damage taken. Maybe this works, maybe it doesn't. There's no way to, just, is my life going down less when I get hit? Maybe, I'm not sure. So theoretically, this just reduces the amount of damage you take when you take damage. And then the healing related ones, there's the Light of Blue Power, which is just a single unit of health you get back when you pick this up. Some enemies will drop this. There's a yellow version that restores 3 HP, and then there's a red one that completely heals you all the way. And then there's the Dark Jewel that we were just talking about, and this is the one that, it turns the enemies on screen into healing pickups, blue ones, 1 HP pickups, which is cool. And it's like it's a cool idea. Again, like I said, there's some catches to it, I think, but it is a cool idea. And certainly, I mean, anytime you get any way to generate healing is cool, and the idea that you just like murk everything on screen is a cool concept. So I like it as an idea. And then there's the Goddess, which is the obligatory 1-up. I don't think I ever got this a single time, so I don't know what it looks like, or not. I don't know where it would have been rather in the game. I'm sure extra hidden. If it was situations where you got to hit empty space, I'm sure it was just extra fucked up places. And then there's a miscellaneous one called the Crest of Time that adds some tick to the level timer if you're a slowpoke. I also don't think I ever got this. But the timer I did have, there were a couple times, because again, one, I'm playing for the pod, so I'm like maybe pausing and writing some notes and taking my sweet time trying to interpret exactly what something's doing before I write about it. So maybe that doesn't happen if I'm not podcasting, but I did have a couple timer instances. There's one level in particular where like that's the thing. I want to say it's maybe 3 or 4, 3 probably, where like the level's extra long, especially it was 3-1, I think. That's extra long. And there's like that runway at the end that's just like enemy after enemy after enemy after enemy. And like all the enemies, if you take them slow, are easy. But if you try to accelerate and not just wait for their frame of fucking weakness or idleness, you put yourself at risk. So to me, it felt like they were trying to use time against you in that situation to get you to accelerate your engagement with these fucking things. So it was something I thought about at times, but yeah, it was not a huge issue, the time limitations. Pages 14 to 16 are pencilings of various enemies and their monikers. Mixed in are the first 4 bosses, which they tag as high-grade demons, and I love that as I don't know, calling the bosses high-grade demons. I've never seen that before, and it's fun to me. Cool story building. My favorite is probably the Bi-Croc, which is a short, chubby, sword-wielding humanoid with a crocodile snout. And it's also what I'm deeming, or rather, has also what I'm deeming to be pig ears. So it's just like a cool mashup of shit, I think, that was kind of fun. Did you have one in there? Are you looking at it that fucking you kind of liked?
It's funny you mentioned that. And in my mind, like in the sprite looking at it, I thought it was just like a little like armored dwarf that I was fighting like in the game. Like, it's so funny.
That's why I love the breakdowns. They give you a better, you know, I don't know. Again, they're doing their best with these this 16-bit artwork. So I always love when they take the time to do these breakdowns and give me like a more fleshed out what I'm supposed to be perceiving here. So I'm not going to give this game a lot of fucking props, I think. Also more foreshadowing, but that's cool.
I do like the high grade demon in round 1, the Wandering Chief. That's cool. It looks like a weird alien kind of creature.
Just in general, except for maybe that Wolverine boss. Mm-hmm. Again, just because I think I have a weakness for Wolverine shit. He's probably my favorite. I think the Wandering Chief. Yeah. And he also, I think, had the most going on mechanic wise because he had the cord that goes off the back of his head that directly attacks. I mean, I guess a lot of them, maybe even all of them, have they attack both directions. So really, it's just a better rationale as opposed to a lot of them just don't ever turn from looking to POV so they can attack both directions. This at least like had a reason to be attacking both directions and him actually addressing me as a combatant, you know what I mean? Which is a plus if I'm fighting something, I suppose, that it's actually engaging me. Word. So, notable history and Game Genie codes maybe that didn't make me feel like I was cheating, Jay. You have any of those?
There were 0 Game Genie codes to be found. So 0 Game Genie codes. Although I did, like, the Game Genie codes you do find are like infinite lives, infinite time, neither of which...
All the basic shit you would expect an arcade game to have, probably.
Yeah. So it's kind of just like, whatever. I was kind of hoping when I was looking to find like start or keep the longsword or keep the fire weapon or whatever, like, but nothing like that. I did, however, find a code, just like a random starting code, which I don't know. I think I canceled the window on accident, but there's a starting code where you hit like right, left, right, left, right, and you get unlimited continues. So I did that just to get unlimited continues.
Oh yeah, that would have been that's cool. The fact that it even had like a Konami code thing is cool. I like that's cool.
Yeah. So I did that, but that's pretty much the only thing that was there. History wise, I was also very disappointed because I'm like, all right, this is coming into it before playing. I'm like, all right, Rastan Saga II, like, give me the story. What's it about? And there's nothing. It's like, it came out, you know, it was their 8th most successful table arcade unit of the month. Mixed reviews otherwise, though. Apparently, there was a 2-player mode that got removed, and like because like
simultaneous.
What's that?
Simultaneous. Well, the arcade one has simultaneous.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the fact that was removed, people were like, "Oh, that was terrible. Poor audio quality. Like everything that we complained about, and we'll talk about on this throughout this episode." Like visuals are laughable, like the level design being mindless and just that kind of stuff. So not a great it was not well received from that standpoint, at least as a port.
I can see that. The one thing I found, and I don't remember what sent me down the road, I think maybe just getting the box art, I noticed there was a T16 iteration, and I have a affinity for kind of dabbling in that system a little bit because I had no exposure to it. So I tried to hunt it down, and Vim didn't even have it, which is not a good sign, I think. Yeah. I did poke around and find some side-by-side compare. Like I found like a Reddit thread that talked about the differences between the two, and I think I might even watch a little bit of play video shit of the T16 one, and it sounds and looks like it has pretty bad slowdown issues, so I think and that makes sense. The T16 is a 16-bit system technically, but not really, so it not being up to, like, the idea that I have, like, the T16 is more of an NES era, or not I have, but it was more of an NES era thing, so like the Dragon Spirit one is the best example I can come up with for it. The Dragon Spirit T16 is fucking incredible compared to an already, I think, good NES port of it, you know? So it's a huge upgrade from the NES. It's not surprising to find that it doesn't keep up with the Sega Genesis, is ultimately what I'm saying.
Yep.
It does supposedly have better music, though. So, again, maybe that's just quantity, because there's only like 4 tracks on the fucking Genesis OST, so that's maybe part of the idea there. And also the Genesis gets flack for its fucking music sound output in general, so not surprising that the video retro gaming hive feels that way, I suppose. And I watched it play it. Yeah, it did look shittier. So,
dude, it just
agree.
Like reading through the lack of history and first expecting.
Well, I found that there was a third installment too, dude. It didn't die here, so
dude,
I don't know. I'll be in the same way that we sometimes. Well, exactly in the same way normally. Or conversely, I suppose, in the way that we normally like, okay, so like I enjoyed this. I'm happy to see there's another one coming. The fact that there's another one coming makes me go, okay, maybe they like fixed a bunch of shit and it gets back to good. Is my I'm not the most optimistic about that idea, but it's on Genesis too, so it's coming. It's not far away. They dropped the arcade version. I think I saw just like a year later after the arcade release of the second one. So they were like, oh, this is a fucking thing. Let's keep cranking these bitches out. So that's not a good sign, probably just the fact that I said that. The fact that they're cranking it out.
Right.
How do they spend time fixing things if they're just cranking them out? So maybe that's not a good realization. So we'll see. But yeah, it's a bummer because, I mean, I love the first one, arcade one, so much. I liked that SMS version. I guess maybe some of that was just understanding we're on the SMS and there's not a lot of good SMS shit. And like finding anything that's even kind of fun on the SMS is like, ooh.
Yeah, but we're not giving out blessings for free out here. Like this feels like
right.
Like the prequel belonged truly before the first one.
Right, yeah. Right, yeah, damn near everything, yeah. Bummer on the lunchroom tabletop eavesdrop side. Fucking that code, fucking Konami code type shit should be in here, but I guess we're not there yet. The only mag appearance is that last Sega Visions, like I mentioned in the opening, and there are 2 screenshot caption tips in there that are totally fucking useless. One is a convoluted Medusa battle tip, and the other is not to give up the Wolverine claws once you get them, and it's like 2 things. One, no shit, Wolverine's the fucking most badass Wolverine or Marvel character, so obviously you'd want to keep anything Wolverine related. But 2, you lose them when you leave the stage, so that's a dumbass suggestion. You don't have any control over keeping them. I mean, I guess clearly, yeah, you don't want to die. You don't want to die in the stage, duh. But like, you can't keep them, so fucking that, yeah. Because that could also mean like picking up another item. You know, right. I think you can also. I don't know if I talk about it or we talked about it. But I think you can go back to the basic sword. I think you can get something that basically takes away the 2 power-ups.
I had that happen a couple times. Just
because I think the thing is you have a shield and you don't have a shield with the other one. So I think that's what that's about is like being able to make that choice. But
yeah, I could see that. I mean, the shield would come in useful later. Not that I would really for sure. Need it
later on. Yeah,
I'm like, okay, great. Block.
Yeah, super clutch actually for these later stages. I think I really started to you're talking about timing and like you get those platforming sequences and shit, and the second areas where you're like dealing with shit, whatever. And like it's definitely very useful to have your shield. So yeah, I can see wanting it for sure.
It does work well. Like as much as I was too annoyed at not seeing multiple pickups along the way because I'm like, oh, give me the cool stuff. Like this is whack. Like I did get used. Even jumping through the stage is like, oh, that shield. Even when I'm not trying, like that and definitely is like stuff. Like
and it's it's Adventure of Link ish is what I always like go to comparison for when you have this. But that high low shit is going on here. You can block low, you can block high, you can attack high, you can attack low. So like. It doesn't fucking work nearly as well here as it does in Legend of Zelda, just because of the clunkiness of the controls and shit that we'll get into. So it's not as easily embraced and employed, perhaps, but it is present here. So having the shield to engage that as a defensive part of that fucking game system is cool for sure. So it's, having the shield is good in many ways. On the economic analysis front, I thought about trying to find the present value of the minuscule amount of time I needed to invest to beat this game. But then I realized, how can I possibly affix a value to the priceless time of a retro video game podcaster? Is the Battle, which is the boss theme, and these are all actually the arcade iterations because it's more complete or even maybe existing soundtrack, and sounds better. So, good choice by Jay. At the title screen of this video game, when you turn on your Sega Genesis, the Sega logo comes up, which all of them do. And then the cool-ass title treatment with a barbarian sword woven into it. Also pretty good-looking pixel art. Again, all the static pixel stuff in this game looks great. The artwork behind me that we'll get to at the beginning of the game, great. It looks good on the surface, which I think is probably what part of maybe duped us into picking this game as a game episode. So, probably also
100%.
duped kids into buying the game in the fucking aisles at the time. At least some. Not everyone, but some. I guess enough to make a third one, so maybe more than I'm suggesting even there. Come to think of it. Press start, and some white story text on a black card comes up, and that reads, "The Rastania was a sacred place in which the temple, skyscraper, soared into the sky. It was said that whoever hopefully conquers, but maybe
Just
not.
conquer.
Yeah, the skyscraper would rule the Rastania. And a wicked group has invaded the skyscraper and has tried to make it their own. If the situation is left as is, the place would eventually be controlled by this wicked group." And that's it. Rastan comes bounding down from off-screen onto a stone wall or path or something. Baby blocks, perhaps. And a gorgeous blue sky set behind a mountain range with a huge castle jutting up out of it all the way off the top of the screen. So it's like, I think that's cool that it just goes so high you can't even see the top of it. Like, that's a choice, not it just worked out that way. And I think that's kind of cool as a decision. And there's a nice looking pine forest also visible between the mountains and the play area plain. So it creates some nice depth, I think. You obviously you can't. I don't even think maybe it parallaxes separately or anything, but it does still give you kind of this multi-layered depth to the play area, which is pretty good for what otherwise is a very basic feeling. You're on one fucking track kind of thing. This video
One
game
plane. Yep.
Right. So on the controls HUD front, pretty fucking simple. A is attack. In addition to the normal standing attack, you can hold up on the D-pad or joystick for an up thrust, as well as a crouch and attack in either direction. To the left or right, basically, when you're crouching. And you can also attack in another direction mid-jump, and you can do a down thrust to take out the shit you rain hell down unto as you fall. So, again, a lot of Adventure of Link inspirations, I think, in the controls of this game. I mean, it's maybe just what a swordplay game is going to have, but it feels strikingly similar. They don't all think to do every single thing that Adventure of Link does. So, it was a nice effort and a nice idea, and I can't recall what the first one had. I think they did. You can definitely do a down thrust.
Yeah,
I can remember falling into those caves. I can't remember if there's an up thrust or not. So maybe it's just part of the fucking DNA of this game. And I shouldn't be comparing it to Adventure of Zelda, or Adventure Link, rather. But anyways, that's all present. The manual states that he automatically goes into a defensive stance when the button is not depressed, but that does not mean he is defending in the direction necessary to prevent damage. So, again, talking about that shield play, that's part of you have to actively use that. It's not whatever, just part of your fucking defense. And holding up while not attacking defends above your head, which that's cool too. You can actually, if you're getting rained down upon, I didn't use that enough, come to think of it, that you can actually hold your shield up. I didn't think to do that, I don't think, my entire playthrough, so maybe the game would have been a wonderful experience if I had just done that. And then, yeah, the direction you're facing, crouch or not, take the blows from there. And then you can do all of the above while jumping as well. B does that jump, and it is a pressure sensitive. You can hop and jump further. And then the C button is dead, has no use. And part of me wants to think that sucks, but also Rastan is Conan, is a barbarian, and barbarians, very simple creatures. So maybe it thematically makes sense. For HUD, we have a thin line in black up top that tells us our score, the arcade holdover high score number, and lives remaining next to a little Rastan melon icon. And down below, we have a 10-unit life bar comprised of gold blocks, time remaining for the stage that works down from 300 at a rate that exceeds 1 second per tick for sure. And that's applicable to every stage. Even boss arenas get 300 ticks, so that's uniform throughout the game. And then a level counter that calls this area level 0 and never fixes itself. You finish the game on level 4, even though it's level 5. I don't know why it starts at 0.
I thought the same thing. I was on level 4.
I thought that would get explained to me at some point.
Wrong? What is
yeah, exactly. I thought that would get explained to me at some point, or there would be some sort of rejiggering that would whatever. No. Throughout, it doesn't make any sense. So, whatever, man. So, round 1 or round 0, whatever the fuck you want to call it, is how we begin here. And it's all left to right. There's scrolling as you dictate. It doesn't auto-scroll at any point in the game. And it's original SMB style in that you cannot backtrack once you clip off area to the left. There's no going back, so you better get anything you want from over there before you do that. And the starter pack grunts they throw at you are not anything from the manual enemy breakdown I could place. There are these skeleton face things scrolling on the ground. Dispatching them had me analyzing their sword attack animation, and it's cool how it's more of a one-handed stab than a swing, overhead or otherwise, of your sword. You know what I mean? So I just thought that, I don't know. I had optimism that the attack, and it is because, like I said, there's the high-low thing going on in this game. So I guess it was communicating that right away, that you are dealing with these things, and they're not just all attacking at the same height. You know, you do have to think about that and how you're going to defend them, and that was good. Your next encounter type is with a skeleton butler. That's a great name. And that's actually how they're reading the manual. That's not me being funny, if I'm ever funny. And that awarded me the Crest of Flames pickup, so you can play with that. So like I said, you get these shit real early. You get the lightning one right after that. Dude. So they show you these things, and then they just never fucking see them again. So I don't know, fucking weird choice, I guess. Whatever.
I got the flame one early, and I was so excited. Like, dude, I want to keep this. Like, obviously, it's the beginning of the game, so I just kept playing. I didn't, play to keep it, but dang, wish I would have seen that again.
Like I said, I like the lightning one more because of the utility getting through things, but yeah, they're both obviously being able to not having to engage anything at all and just being able to shoot from afar is great. If we could have done it more frequently. And then a beat later, you see your first swinging rope, and these are entrenched to me as such a strong memory of that arcade version. I used to play at the laundromat as a kid, so it's terrible. They're terrible. It's the controlling of it terrible. Getting off them is not reliable or cool. They suck, and I don't think they were. I think it is kind of rigid in the first one too. They're certainly rigid in the first arcade game because that's just how arcade games worked, you know. But yeah, I wish they could have employed these a little more fluidly because it is frustrating at times. And if you don't get to that full in swing, you don't come off the way you want probably, and it's almost like, I guess maybe the problem is it acts like unless you're at the very end, you have no inertia. Almost. Yes. I mean, you move a little bit, but it doesn't, and granted, there's only going to be so many, notches in the way any movement is going to happen. It's probably only going to be 8 things, you know, it's either down, whatever the fucking second cardinal, not intercardinal or cardinal, you know, it's gonna be one of those two. It's not gonna be, you're not gonna get between those. You're not gonna get south southwest or anything in the fucking in the compass of these fucking game movements. So I get that, but that limitation really rears its head with these, I guess maybe is the ultimate point, and it fucking sucks. And the animation with his legs is all the way up. It's I don't know. Especially I don't know. I feel like he couldn't even do that if doesn't have more inertia, you know? It's like a contradiction. What you see visually as far as what his inertia must be and the effect getting off of it is just really in conflict, and it frustrates. It makes the frustration of not getting what you want movement wise even more profound, pronounced, you know?
It does look a little,
but they're giving you a very, say again?
It does look a little silly. I noticed that as well. That is an interesting sprite choice movement there.
Right. They're at least giving you a low-risk acclimation opportunity here, though, to figure this shit out, you know? You're swinging over a couple of these grunt enemies. You're not actually going over a pit. Yeah. So at least this learning curve can be had without fucking falling into a fucking losing a life, you know? So that was mildly kind of them, I suppose. Okay, so I lied. I just forgot about it because it must have been unfucking... Like I said, there's some overlap with that life pickup thing, so maybe that's why I forgot. But you do get the Crest of Hegemony here as well, and it's... in this instance, at least, it's useless because when you pick it up, the only enemy that was on screen was the enemy that dropped it.
Oh, yeah. That happened. So I got that a couple times throughout the game where I'd get it and there'd be nobody on screen or something. I'm like,
really?
What a waste.
Yeah, what the fuck, man? That should be more strategically placed to make you feel like it's a benefit. You know?
Right.
Oh, so I did. Yeah, I did. I again, notes taken too long ago. But I did look up what the fuck hegemony means. And it is defined as the political, economic, and military dominance or predominance of one state over the other states, either regional or global. So I guess it kind of makes sense to call it hegemony and that it just murks everything, you know, and it is your dominance over everything on screen. So it's kind of applicable. But I also kind of feel like maybe that's looking at a bunch of like trying to find the word without being familiar with the English language enough and being like, okay, this seems like it. That seems like the definition. Yeah, but it's not really the appropriate usage. You know.
Yeah. They could have picked a different word, which would have been way more
applicable, right? Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's just such an odd. I'd never seen before. I was curious. It appeared to be a big deal in ancient culture's political philosophy. So, again, this also, I guess, makes it kind of more applicable because this is supposed to be some sort of ancient time or something. But like ancient Greece in particular, this was part of like the political vernacular and the idea that a hegemon city-state would have dominance over other city-states. So think like Rome. You know, there wasn't like Rome was just like this ever-fluid kingdom or whatever, and like the city of Rome just controlled all these other cities. They didn't have like defined, maybe they did, but we don't think of them to this day as like, it just kept taking over cities and like, you know, and it just was like a dominance of one city over other cities basically. So kind of, I guess, maybe boiled down to a more basic thought of it. It's just one thing dominating a bunch of other like not more significant in size or status things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to like a country takes over a place, a smaller place now, you know, I guess in the way we think of war, like, you know, United States or some other colonializing fucking entity taking over fucking Puerto Rico is like, obviously you see the disparity in how that works, you know, as opposed to it'd be like just the city of fucking Chicago taking over Puerto Rico, some city, you know, some whatever, probably a diaper dive, deeper dive. What the fuck's the matter with me today? Fucking, what's that called? What's it called? Can't read shit? No, brain fog too, yeah. But no, when you can't read shit right, it looks jumbled on the screen or whatever. Dyslexia, yeah. Having some dyslexia moments here. Anyhow, the soundtrack, only has 4 pedestrian cues to it. So when I moved into that first kind of stone structure, I was surprised they were making a music transition. So like when I first go into, I think it was going into the second level, or maybe that's the boss. No, yeah, the second area. I noticed music transition, and that was after I had I tried to find the death cue in the soundtrack. So I know there's only 4 tracks. So like I go in there or this happens, and I'm like, they're switching the music from level 1 to level 2 with only 4 total tracks? That's insane. And I realized, actually, looking at going to the OST, there's just like a major, in the story main theme track, there's like a major orchestral change in the fucking, so I guess they're trying to, maybe it's it's a way of saying there's more than just 4 tracks, I suppose, but it was just, I was so like, I guess disappointed in the soundtrack maybe that when I felt a change there musically, I was like, how the fuck are they wasting that like this? You know, we need those tracks for other shit. Slow down, man. Don't fucking blow your whole load right away. Yeah, that was a funny realization. So yeah, you'll get damn near every pickup in the game here in the first level if you whack anywhere and everywhere. So I did clock early on that you can do that. There are also enemy drops as well. So those, there's kind of a ranged way to find these things. And you will reach an endpoint where the screen eventually, or maybe quickly even, where it just stops scrolling and like there's no indication otherwise that you've reached the end other than maybe the enemies stop appearing. And this is the end of the area. You walk, and then before you actually reach the end of the screen, it kind of gives you this fucking little whatever transitional feel, and you move into this new area. And here, and again, I didn't realize in that opening synopsis that they were explaining this to you, but I did feel it and wrote it in so many words. The first level is basically a hack and slash, or the first area is a hack and slash. The second area is more environmentally based. I don't know if I call it a puzzle or however they worded it, or a mechanic or whatever. But like it was more predicated. Yeah, it was more predicated on either platforming or there being these kind of fucking like the environmental hazards, flames or shit jutting out of the walls, or those dragon things that you'll encounter later. Like a lot of that shit is in the second thing. Or second area, and then the third level is always a boss arena. So there was kind of this continuity to the flow of it that maybe if there was more content and it was more enjoyable, would be kind of a nice structure that you would appreciate. But here, it's very samey, I think, ultimately, because of how, I don't know, whatever.
There's not much differentiation. Like, to your point, like there's some more environmental stuff, like in the section here, which we're getting into. There's just the baby blocks, the freaking chop down.
Right, exactly. And I didn't even. It felt frivolous to me. It didn't.
So frivolous.
This particular instance, like, it's not. Like, again, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm this obsessed with the Adventure Link, but this is the thing in Adventure Link: the blocks falling from the ceiling and you having to kind of cut through them. You know, here, or in that game rather, you have to cut through them and you actually got to like build stairways and like. It actually is part of an obstruction or something, and in this, it's meaningless. I don't even understand what they don't keep falling.
Entirely meaningless. You
break them and then you just move through. Like, there's just no point to it. I don't even understand. It is just busy work, I guess. It's not. It doesn't feel like it's adding to difficulty or anything. So yeah, again, just not a great feeling thing here. Just arbitrarily, it's not a great feeling thing.
Yep.
And then at the end of the second area, you get the same indicator of progress, scrolling stops, and the fade effect on your sprite. And then we transition to our first boss battle against a high-grade demon that goes by Wandering Chief, your favorite manual installment, or breakdown installment. And the beautiful thing about his name is you can call him Chief condescendingly. And that is one of my favorite subtle digs, is to call someone Chief. And I will never not think of David Letterman when I hear the word Chief. And that fucking segment he had, Stop Calling Me Chief, where he would go out onto the streets of NYC and do interviews with people that didn't, like, it wasn't explained to them what was happening to them, but he would ask them a bunch of questions and he would keep calling them Chief in the questions and in the dialogue. And the whole point of the segment was merely to get them to say, like, either stop calling me Chief or why are you calling me Chief, or just acknowledge that he was calling them Chief. And like, it was just such a fucking brilliant comedy bit that I love it to death, and I cannot think of it whenever I hear the word Chief. And yeah, to me it is a fantastic like degradative thing to call someone as, like, supposedly, I don't know, buddy, you know, equivalent, you know. I know, like, I mean, think about it. Like, I've actually had people call me Chief.
Dude, I called you Chief once, but in a not negative way, and you were like,
that's what I mean.
You were so confused, and I was like,
what did I do, bro? Like, what the fuck? Yeah, no, I'm not saying, I recall that, and us even having that exchange, and I wasn't alluding to that here. I wasn't being passive aggressive there. No, I was like, I'm not saying in other places in my life it's happened, and like, I spent the next like 2 minutes like thinking to myself, like, is this motherfucker like trying to get fucking fresh? It's like such a serious thing to me. I just don't know why you would ever call someone Chief if you're not being a dickhead. You know, it's like, to me, it's like a Chief. I mean, come on, like, Chief, Boss too. It's like, it's right there with Boss, but Boss is not as bad.
Yeah.
But also calling someone boss is like, if they're not even if they are your boss, I feel like it's not okay. But if they're not your boss, it's particularly like, why are you calling me boss, bro?
Dude, even when I've had people on a team who have like said, I'm like, no, that's weird. No, don't.
Yeah, it's I feel, yeah, there's no way to do that. Again, whether they are your boss or not, they're undermining you in way, shape, or form. I feel like they're either like to call, like, I don't know. It's somehow it feels like an undermine of like whatever. I don't even have to have any authority. I don't have any authority over anything, but it's still an undermining of whatever my place is in the world to call me boss or chief. You know what I mean? So we spent too much time on this. Let's move on. So the Wandering Chief here has a big ass head that makes me think of the H.R. Geiger aliens in shape. I told you, never goes away. Everything's always ripping off of it all the time. It's fucking incessant. So that's nothing to say here. There's a color scheme that's a little different. I guess that, again, my criticism of the fucking X-Men usage was they didn't make any effort to deviate in any way. At least here, they changed the fucking color scheme up, and it's got this whitish blue hue to them overall, and then pink accents on the back of the banana of the fucking alien head, you know, so that's kind of nice. And then his body looks kind of atrophied. He's wearing a tribal chief robe type deal, and he wields a large scimitar that and what I think is a shield, but at times his animation would look like he was holding up some shaman shit. Like something a shaman would do as part of some voodoo shit is what I initially had clocked it as. But then I felt like he was also blocking things at the same time. So I don't know if that's supposed to be a shield or like some sort of like voodoo fucking shit, which also would make sense for a tribal chief, in my opinion.
I mean, I thought it was a shield, but like we
Okay.
didn't spend that much time together. So outside of him blocking a hit, and then he was dead. So
Okay, yeah. I mean, so he has all that, and then he also has the whip on the back of his like cord thing hanging on the back of his head that he'll tag you if you try to flank him. I mean, I don't feel, unless I found like a true total cheese, which I was able to do 2 or 3 times, the last boss being one of them, which is pathetic, I think. But this guy, I actually had trouble. I wasn't able to find, again, unless it was either 2 fucking tracks. It was either a total cheese, and even then I was usually, even a total cheese, it's a cheese where I'm able to get enough damage in on a full life bar where he dies before I die. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it's either that or you're dying at least once against these guys. There were no like, I never felt once with these bosses like I found a way to tactfully battle them where I could develop a defensive thing that allowed me to block or avoid their attacks and also get hits in. It was always just kind of just running into a fucking, brute forcing it in some way, shape, or form. Like I said, either just taking the damage and losing lives, and continuing probably in some cases even, or a total cheese where I'm just able to spam them and get enough hits in before I die. You know what I mean? You're looking like maybe, I don't know, I'm having a hard time interpreting your face as to whether or not you had the same experience or something different.
So, slightly different. With this boss, I mean,
I just crouched and hit him. Yeah, it was my ultimate solution, but it was still not, not foolproof.
with the Wolverine claws on this guy, like literally like 4 down slashes and he was dead. So I had
Did
so
you
much
have the Wolverine
health
claws?
left. It was
so am I
quick.
wrong in that you lose them?
On
You
this
must.
one, yeah.
If you're saying you had it here, you clearly didn't get that in this thing. You don't get any pickups in these boss rings, I think, anyways, that I ever had.
Right.
So
maybe
I'm
I didn't really
wrong.
have much afterwards, but like I thought you kept them, but you don't have them after like the full round, maybe. But I'm pretty sure you keep them from like round 1.1 to 1.2 to 1.3 kind of thing.
Oh, okay. So that's what, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking that then. All right. Fair.
But yeah,
Let's
I mean,
get
I
that correction
definitely
for it.
died a lot more after this, just not caring and trying, just essentially any way I would play any other game, I'm taking my time and all that. Like, I was just like, all right, I'm just going to push through this. So I will say to your point though, with the other bosses, like round 2 boss, I'm just jumping and slashing to the head. It's easy. Like no problem. There's not even much to figure out. But then the other bosses after that, dude, I used tactics, but it didn't, like it maybe required 1 death. And I was like, oh, I'll just do that. Where it's just like, I mean, we'll get to it, but essentially like one boss is just like, I'm going to do 3 swings and I'm going to just hold still. And then like, oh, I get all my hits in there and then step back, let you do your 3 swings again. And then you're going to stop, and then I'm going to kill you. Like, they were that simple in terms of figuring out mechanics. Like, it wasn't even any other game we played.
I must either have no faith or be a moron then. I never saw I never felt a timeable, calculable attack pattern that I was able to.
Because you don't need to. That's the thing.
I guess that's probably it, yeah.
You can either slash to your point, or, like, it was honestly... it's only because we're podcasting this game. It's only because we were podcasting that I even did this, because otherwise I'm just like, yeah, I'll just, to your point, spam through it, cheese through it, slash it, and it's fine. But I was kind of like, well, what else is to these bosses? So I would like slash and then kind of step back. And then I learned like the last 2 really were predictable. It's like slash, stop. Slash up, something, stop. And I was like, really? Wow, this is...
I can't believe I didn't have the patience.
That's what made me
to
even less
that.
invested. After that, I was like, oh, dude, I didn't even...
Especially if you see the same thing in 2 bosses.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, yeah. Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, yeah, I never felt that, so I mean, that would have been at least mildly satisfying, that I could at least, like, had some hegemony over them. It would have been nice to feel like I had some hegemony over them. The arena, so that's the boss battle itself. These all happen in the same exact environment. They're like a temple of some kind, archways, and ornate red, blue, orange brickwork, bright green floors that made me think of like green jasper or some sort of gemstone type mineral that's green. And you can, like, these areas it's not just like a one screen width arena. You can scroll these to the right. Maybe I would call it 1.5 to 2 screens worth of space, which some of them I would find might have been the second one where I could kind of get a little bit of a hit it and then jump out of there. And I think that was the one that is that Medusa one where she could teleport maybe and teleport behind you. And I think I was able, that was one I think I was able to figure out a pattern with. So maybe I'm lying about that too. But anyways, there's a little bit of fucking scroll range here to kind of expand the space if you want to get strategic or can figure out a way to be strategic. Yeah, and I just had no idea how to get licks in this guy without taking damage. Like, he lollygags back and forth, swinging the scimitar. He'll also raise his shield up at times, and I wasn't sure if that does damage or not. Like I said, I wasn't able to interpret whether that was a defensive or maybe a shaman type thing. And, like, the reason all this is the case is because you do flash white when you take damage, so I don't want to say there's no damage feedback. But when you're in there whacking at him, it's hard to tell what's doing damage and what's not on him. Really? There's no feedback on him. So, or rather, they do flash white, but you're not able to, like, it's happening so fast that you're not able to tell necessarily which thing. If you're just, like, hitting high and low and, like, just really fucking in there, just getting fucking busy on his ass, it's hard to tell what's working and what's not. So, in that regard, the feedback did not feel great necessarily, and that led to my also having a hard time interpreting some sort of attack pattern that would work. But if you're close enough to do damage with the sword, and I wrote here that they took my lightning power at the level transition, so I didn't have that. Maybe you can get the weapon, but maybe not the power-ups. Maybe that's
because I lost the lightning power whenever, I don't remember, but I definitely had.
So maybe that's what I was thinking then, and that it would have carried over to weapons as well.
But this guy, like, to your point, he does shield. Like, I came in swing and then he blocks it. But if you just kneel, I think I think that's the whole thing.
They all kneeling on all
kneel, that's all.
Right. But the thing is, you're kneeling and then you can't move. True. And they're going to hit you. You can't, and then you can still get hit high when it's like that. True. At least I'm pretty sure. I could definitely get hit, whether he's attacking low or not, I don't know. But I definitely would be able to get hit when I'm attacking low. But that was often my first thing, because, that was certainly the solution with this guy, is to attack low. Because I don't think he really defended that. I think he only defended high.
That's all.
But again, yes, all true, but he could still do damage. And I was finding that he took enough hits here. I don't know why it would have changed. Later bosses you would think would have more HP, not less, but in this case I was definitely dying before I could get enough hits on him to kill him with that methodology. So man, I don't know. And I mean, in general, we haven't said it yet, but Rastan is not a nimble fellow.
No.
So you are not like tagging him, I felt anyways, and then jumping out of range. I'm shocked to hear that you were doing that with any reliable frequency.
When I was jumping, like in like the second round boss jump slashes like that, I think it was Medusa 2 where I would slash and then jump away, like that I would move. But like when you're crouching, like that's taking a while.
I think I did that on Medusa 2. If I recall my playvid correctly, I posted all my boss battles except for maybe the last one because of how stupid it was. No, I think I posted that one too, but whatever the case. Anyway, so I was flummoxed, so I took a look at a long play, and that's worth noting. The long play of this game is 16 fucking minutes, so that tells you how much content is here. And the person doing that, this was maybe, the fact I looked at this for the first boss might have been the worst decision I made in this whole experience is, I watched the long play, and the person doing the long play also just crouched and spammed with this fucker, and that is not a good feeling. The person doing the long play, you'd have to think anyways, it's not their first time. I guess that's not a given, but it's probably the case. And if they're spamming them on the first boss, not a good sign. No. So, it was a really bad tone setter, I think. So I see the death animation a couple times in this battle, and it's a great time to address that, I think. And this is, I'm saying our own, Rastan's, I mean. And your life bar hits 0 blocks, your sprite stands up a bit, kind of like a hunch type deal. Your weapons and shield disappear from your hands and your body atrophies to just skin and bones for a frame. and then you crumple to a small cloud of ash on the ground before even that disappears. And then if you have lives remaining, you reappear with a full health bar right where you stood, and the action continues. I think you might be flashing for a second or two, and I'm pretty sure you're also impervious in that moment. And then if you're out of lives, continue pops up, again, very arcade style, real big in the middle of the screen, and there shows you how many continues you have left next to it, and then a timer starts counting from 10 to 0 right there below continue. So there is no game over sound cue if you're out of continues or let the timer run out. And to me, especially as a person who edits this podcast, that ends every podcast for game episodes with the death cue animation. That is a cardinal fucking sin. So how are we supposed to end this podcast without one? I don't know. I'm at a loss for what I'm going to do there. So fucking you can sell the disciples the whole seat, but they're only going to need the edge to see how the end of this goes, I think. Anyways, on death, whenever that comes to be, seeing that there's no life meter or anything for these bosses, so again, not a ton of feedback as to how long these are going to be or how they're going. But you get an explosion animation and then a Stone of the Wise. It's very gray and boring looking. I think that sucks that it's not more ornate or interesting.
It's definitely
but
a
that
stone.
Appears,
like
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not a gem, a stone for sure. And yeah, it appears up in the air in the middle of the screen. And then when you grab it, it feeds your dopamine receptors with a little jewel acquired sound. And then we fade out to a black card that you'll get at the end of every one of these levels. That are kind of like I don't know, it's an attempt at story, I suppose. Rastan's sprite leaps down and stops in a black void. Text appears next to him. In this case, it reads round 1 clear, even though you're in round 1-0, supposedly. So again, we have some incongruency here in the fucking round
in the
level.
Game.
Yeah. And then there's some text that's supposed to be him just talking to himself, I think. It reads, I have opened a fire. Now I am determined to hold my ground at any cost. Okay, Conan or Rastan or whatever. Round 2 starts just as round 1 did. Rastan leaping down from the sky and landing next to a brick wall behind him. Instead of a castle being the BG centerpiece, it's an arid mountain range jutting up from a thick forest canopy. There are a range of new enemies here. Some of them, I believe, are repeats from the last round. There are some new ones, though. I love the Gygax sprite work. They're the tall cloaked dudes with the minotaur skull heads. They have a sword. And when you smash their melon, which I think is, I don't think you can attack them low. I think you have to hit them in the head. And when that explodes, or no, sorry, you can hit them low, but you want to hit their head. Because if you hit them low, they turn into a low ground crawling creature that then like kind of sprints at you. So they basically give you more work to deal with. So you want to hit them high. And when you hit them high, their head explodes and reveals a mess of crab legs sticking out of their neck, which is just a cool death animation or whatever animation. They introduce a handful of environmental hazards that you have to sort out the timing of and avoid over the course of the 2 areas leading up to the boss. There are flame-shooting blocks. These are like a burst of flames that carries a uniform speed across the screen. It's all about timing out the gaps between them as far as how to navigate them. There are ceiling-clinging things that amble back and forth, with little blades spinning beneath them that kind of are meant to prevent you from jumping, I think, in utility. And then there are little sword-jabbing skulls that come out of the walls to muck up some of the fire areas, just to give you more shit to deal with environmentally. And it's all just a light impediment in getting to an identical boss battle arena as the first one, where we will square off with the high-grade demon Medusa Nay. And it's not your traditional Medusa deal, in my humble opinion. It has a head of snakes, but that sits atop a cloaked human body, carrying a large crooked sword and huge shield. And it's very slow in plotting. It only ever attacked low on me and didn't attack high, so that was very limited, I suppose. You do have to hit it high in the head, and then it will disappear and reappear behind you with a swift low stab. So it kind of like flanks you, theoretically. And I had one random instance where I think I hit it in the shield, and that sent it flying a number of sprite lengths back. And it responds to that by doing a quick sliding back towards you attack. I guess that was kind of hard to avoid, but this only happened to me once. So I don't really think you can probably avoid it pretty easily, I think, once you especially kind of dissect the way this works. And what I did to figure that out was, yes, you jump in place, you try to time your sword swing out to be just after you come down out of the apex, basically, of your jump, I mean. and then it disappears after you hit it, and then you'll land, and then you wait a beat, and then jump again kind of away.
Yep.
Right? And you should have you up in the air while it's stabbing low, and then you're able to turn and if you're able to turn and face it before you jump, because it's appearing behind you, remember. So if you can turn, you have the time to do that. It's a little hard because, again, just clunky. But if you do that, you can land and just hit it on the way down.
Yep.
So you can really, basically super quickly spam this if you can get that turn in. But if not, and more reliably and safer probably, you can just be jumping away.
That's all it did.
And then turn and then do another jump and hit it on the way down from that. So, yeah, that was 2 ways you could do it, I suppose. One a little easier than the other. But ultimately, this is probably the easiest boss, or at least the easiest boss for me, I would say. Because it did actually have a fucking pattern I could fucking ascertain. So, what have you. That nodding that you can't see as a listener is Jay saying that it was the same for him, I think.
I think the round 3 boss might have been either easier or just as easy. Because
that's the Wolverine one, right? Am I
like the
Wolverine?
one?
Or no, that was the Centaur.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that also was a little easy for me as well.
Yep.
Anyways, the second one, and all of them, actually, but particularly since we're at level round 2, round 1, however you want to look at it, a Stone of Wise appears above the fucking sprite that you killed on death, just the same, and we out. Round clear black card text this time reads, "You wicked people, how did you like my assault?" This is my favorite one. "How did you like my assault? Oh, here come tough enemies." How did you like my assault? Yeah, how did you like my assault? It's a lot like hegemony. It's like, yes, that word, the definition of that word works there, but that's a weird choice.
Definitely, you're not going to convince me an American wrote this copy. Like, you're not going to convince me of that at all. Because when I read this at first, I'm like, who's speaking? And then it said, "Here comes tough enemies." I'm like,
who is talking to who here?
Rastan.
Yeah, agreed. So moving into round 2/3, shit does get super serious in my opinion. As far as the environmental difficulty, there was an uptick here in my opinion. And this place is kind of cave-ish, cave adjacent perhaps, as in the perfectly square blocks that make up the floor and walls of every level are now brown. And there are
stalactites.
Correct. Dropping from the ceiling. But there is some kind of hanging creature launching them down. They're not falling because of an inopportune rash of entropy like normal video game caves.
Which I assumed until I tried to kill one halfway through. I was like, oh, I can kill them. What am I doing?
Right.
Why am I avoiding?
Yep. Agreed. And yeah, there's also new enemies in addition to those, I suppose. I really like the guys. They're like the haunted hayride looking guys. Not 100% certain, but they could potentially be the Mostins in the manual breakdown. Mm-hmm. And these are the things that come out of the gray goop puddles.
Oh,
they can both be on. They're honestly probably the most annoying enemy in the game, I think. And the most likely to hit you of any of them, probably, I would say, just because they usually put them in groups. And I don't know how you deal with multiple of them at one time without taking some damage. There's just no way to do it, in my opinion. But yeah, they can either be in these little fucking essentially divots in the ceiling as puddles, defying gravity, or they can be in the ground as gravity adhering puddles. And they come out of them and they throw maybe sickles, perhaps, is what those are.
I think they're the water shadows. I think this is the water shadows in the manual because they're throwing watery dagger things at you. Okay. So copy. Yeah. I hated them at first though.
No, I hated them throughout because these are prevalent for the rest of the game basically. Yep. They do not. This is not a lot of the enemies. Not a lot. Some of the enemies are just one-offs in a particular level, but these are present pretty much the rest of the game because it was probably they realized it was the most fucking difficult sprite or enemy mechanic they came up with. So as we make the game harder, why get rid of that? Is probably how that went as far as the fucking design tree went. And then the dragons, these are cool too. I think they're when you first see parts of these, they look like just vines or something that are environmental obstructions or hazards. But as you get later in this stage, you realize that these are part of these dragons that you find the heads of, and you can kill the heads, and it gets rid of the vines in parts of the places, which is cool. I think that's just a cool idea, and it was something that I didn't see it coming. And anytime a game, especially one this basic, gives me anything I didn't see coming, I want to take a moment and acknowledge the fucking thumbs up of that.
Dude, I didn't even notice that until watching the playthrough afterwards. Like I I assumed they were just an environmental annoying buzzsaw thing that I was having to avoid. I didn't even catch it. I did not even catch it until now.
I immediately noticed
that's the body of that thing.
Yeah, I immediately noticed it.
Huh.
That was cool.
That's cool.
But more importantly, they throw a lot of shit in here that requires nimble avoidance efforts. And as I mentioned already, our boy Rastan here is anything but nimble. And yeah, there's tons of platforming on the falling stone platforms, which these are different than your average falling platform in that you can kind of control their height, in that if you keep jumping, they recover more than they drop on you. So if you jump rapidly, they will climb, and there are times where you have to do that just to get off them to get to the next thing. But in general, you at least have control over that, and that's interesting because it makes you make those in the moment choices that again, there's not a lot of fucking. I'm not saying they're great or anything, but it is at least unique. It's not like I can't talk about Adventure of Link for a fucking second right now, and and that's a rare instance in this game. So I want to give it its fucking. They're not flowers, but
that's funny. I feel the opposite. I feel the opposite on these things because I died a lot on this level, not caring because I'm playing it expecting them to operate like these do in any other game. Just like you said, the longer I sit on it, the longer it goes down. But later in the level, I mean, clearly I died multiple times. There was this part where you had to drop down onto it, but it just kept going down. I would jump up, I tried that, and no matter what, it just never came back up. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'm just dying and continuing. And at that point, it moved me back up to the side, and I could wait for it to finally come back up. So I got a gripe about how these.
Really?
Yeah.
I felt like I was in total control of them. I didn't have any.
Yeah, I did not feel that way. I felt they were okay until that one instance. I think it's towards the end of the level 2 where it happened. I was like, really? You changed the way these work right here?
I never noticed that. But believe me, I'm not. You're just easily by level 3 here or level 2, motherfuckers. I am just. It's not autopilot, but it's really close to. I'm not. I'm doing my best to come up with interesting shit to say, to jot down on this fucking Word doc so we could do a podcast, but pretty checked out. So, whatever. So there's a bunch of those fucking platforms. There's rope shit across fire pits that are very punitive, as opposed to that earlier mention of the ropes. And then there's those fireballs, and these fucking fireballs, I could not monofocus on fixate on these fucking fireballs. They look like jewels. They don't look like fireballs. Right. They look like bouncing orange jewels. So that bugged me every time I saw them, and
I swung at them once, thinking they were.
They're very. It's very the look of them. No, because Sonic the Hedgehog, the fireballs look like fireballs. They're much more visually well done. But as far as their behavior, they are very Sonic-like or reminiscent of Sonic to me, in that they often would have multiple heights, and you got to sit there and waste time. This is what I'm talking about with the time thing. Is in these environmental areas, there's things you got to time out a lot of times, and I'm a very calculated player. I understand not everyone is, but I'm a player. When I see something like that, I want to spend a second and get a feel for what that timer is, and then or timing is, and then move through it. So I'm not just a read and react person. If I can make a intelligent, informed choice, I'm going to spend the time to do that. So that to me was a trade-off here, because this was the one where I think time was a deal. No, actually, I didn't write it down. It must be 4. So maybe not the case, but in any event, it will certainly become an issue. After likely some save scumming through that shit, at least for me, we arrive at our high-grade demon boss battle versus the mighty Hal Centaurus, and he is a centaur, half horse, half man, if you're not up to speed in your fantasy bullshit. And he's, of course, armorless, because we got to see that 8-pack abs on a centaur. And
he's only armored, correction, Josh, he's only armored on his centaur legs. Those have some armor. But
right. But I just meant his torsos. Yeah, it's 6-pack. Don't be fucking, no, that's an 8-pack, bro. Don't fuck around. We're getting the lower. This motherfucker does the leg side of the ab workout. He doesn't he's not just doing upper abs here. Get out of here. Don't sell dude short. Don't sell homeboy short. He does the work. But so he has battle gear everywhere, actually. He's got a huge sword, he's got shield, he's got ram horn helmet thing going on. And yeah, he's got like the really cute little spiked thigh and shin pads on his front horsey legs. So yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen that on a centaur before, so I thought that was notable and funny. And yeah, there's not much to him. He confronts you front on and then swings his sword down at your lower parts, and his head is the weak point as it goes with an enemy like this. And I was kind of able to develop a system with this one that it was far from damage free. Like I said, it's not entirely reliable, but at least it was kind of work where I would jump up and get a hit head on, and he flashes, and then I think when he flashes, you can pass through him unscathed. You don't always, like, timing that out and whether or not he stopped flashing, I wasn't able to always fucking be sure, so I don't know that's 100% certain. But I kind of felt like maybe I was able to get through him when he was flashing without taking damage. And then you want to get behind him and far enough away that when he swings his sword back, he does not hit you with it. And then from there, you can jump up and get a few licks in while he moronically swings his sword at nothing in front of him. So that was my solution for this dude.
That sounded like a lot of work. That sounded like a lot of work. Like, to me, probably. This might have been the easiest boss outside of, like I said before, because I jump slashed him, to your point, and then I don't know what happened, but he just, to your point, kept just striking downward. So every time he did that, I would just jump straight up and get him again. So like a couple hits and I was so done. I was like, oh, we're done now? Great, moving on. So that
that obviously would have been smarter because then I'm not jumping through him and taking the fucking.
When you said you went through him, I was like, whoa. Yeah. Took the long way around, huh?
Yep. So it is. The round clear dialogue goes, I would rather run away, but no! Timidus does not conquer, which is second favorite behind the do you like my assault? And yeah, like this one, I guess there's a little bit, it's not oscillation with the second one. He says, do you like my assault? Here come the harder enemies. So like that's an acknowledgement of increasing difficulty, but it's not going through it. I feel like this one is Rastan going through it here at the narrative midpoint of this story. Is him, working through some shit about what he's gotten himself into. So I thought that notable and funny. After these messages,
we'll be right back.
You've never seen anything like this before. Because this is no movie. It's live. A 20-minute sword and sorcery spectacular that puts you within inches of all of this. The Adventures of Conan, the highest-rated tour attraction ever, based on 1983 tour visitor survey. Only at Universal Studios Tour.
That is a 1983 commercial for a Universal Studios show, I guess, based on the Conan movies. And they call it the highest-rated tour attraction ever. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, Lord Disciples. If you missed it, you missed it. It's how... It's so 80s. It was just so 80s. Early 80s, specifically. Like, the laser effects in that fucking commercial are magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. Yeah, if you watch the YouTube iteration of this and you see these every time, I think I put in some effort with these and they all have their merits, I think. If you don't watch the YouTube one anyways, and you don't normally spend the time to go to the show notes and watch these commercials and only hear them, this is one I think you need to spend the time to click through and watch. It's 30 seconds of your life. Go do it. It's fucking great.
I love the moment where they look at each other and they're just like, what should we do? Let's block. And I was like, what's this? Oh my gosh.
The simple fact that existed. I mean, they call it a 20-minute show that they're probably doing on repeat 1 million times a day or maybe on every hour or something. I mean, I'm sure there's a reset, so it's probably not just fucking on loop, but like, wow, what a life. What a life to just be doing that all day. Fucking, and it's like, it's not, it doesn't look like a fucking middle school fucking play art, but like it's pretty, like there's fucking effort in that. I mean, it's Universal Studios, so obviously money and shit, it's not like fucking inconceivable that it fucking looks professional, but it just, I don't know, it was just, I couldn't believe it existed. I found that I was looking for commercials for this, obviously, and I'm like, well, those don't exist. And then that came up, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I thought it was a game. I'm like, what do we like? What?
Fascinating. Using that. Round 4, round 3, Rastan moves into a dark forest setting now. A lot of samey shit here, but that 4-armed humanoid skeleton that's quad-wielding 2 swords and 2 maces is a cool-ass newbie enemy I really like. And the first area of this place is all about time management. So yeah, this is the one that really leaned on the ticker for me. Yeah, you can probably get through it without much damage if you take your sweet time, but the level is way too fucking long to do that if you don't want to burn a life on an empty timer. And I just burned the life. Fuck it. But I was easily, I'm save stating my ass off at this point because you just got to get done here. And I had save stated my ass into a corner towards the end where this isn't going to happen. Like, no matter how aggressively I take this next 42 seconds or 42 nanoseconds that the timer gives you, I'm not going to make it to the end, no matter how quickly I dispatch these things and how much damage I take while doing it. So I'm just going to take and it is too. That's, I guess, worth mentioning. We haven't talked about the end of the timer, but it just takes a life. It's not like game over, start over. Yeah. So no big deal. Ultimately.
Even the enemies that you do see, like, I'm surprised that there was like a time element. I guess my approach was the same as before. Like, I'm just blasting through it and not really thinking twice. Right. So if I die,
the end of the level,
but like I never.
It's not a boss rush because they're not bosses, but the end of the level, the last like half of this level is all just, again, it's the first time in the game where there's just no environmental anything to it. It's just like this procession, this gauntlet of battles against mostly larger enemy sprites, and there's like those flying things that come in and you gotta I think they're the eagles maybe, or the falcons or something, and you have to stop and wait. The only way to deal with them, because they fly in at that angle, and you have to I think hit them at that where they get head level, and they back up and do another attack. And if you try to do anything other than stop and wait for that to all play out, you're going to get tagged a couple of times because they start doing some V shit above you and stuff. So there's enemies like that where, again, they're the dealing with them is very timing based. And if you don't want to just take licks, you have to stop and I felt anyways, you had to stop and fucking do it a certain way, and that takes time, so. Whatever. Second area is platformy, rope swinging, precision fest. You got to be mindful of keeping it moving, but it wasn't push you up against the 300 ticks as much as the first level, in my opinion. The high grade demon boss battle pits you against Claw, my art behind me, and he's a lion humanoid with the same Wolverine claws you can find, which I hadn't found. I wrote down here in so long at this point, and that's very disappointing. And I'd call his movement pattern, yes, very Marvel Wolverine inspired. He, that crouching and looking at POV, not Rastan at his side. Again, this is probably the most prevalent instance of this. Right. The end boss is that way too, where he never turns sideways and looks at you. But he bends down and puts his fucking claws out to the side as a attack both directions. And that is it is the Wolverine snicked let's party pose and a half, and you're just not convincing me that's not ripped from Marvel Comics. You know what I mean? So that to me was very noticeable.
I would agree. It's funny that you're talking about Wolverine. When I look at this, obviously that comes out a little later, but all I see is Vega from Super Street Fighter 2. Just because he has the claws, jumping, because he jumps down with that arms extended out to the side.
Vega is the no, that's Bianco.
He's the one with the mask. No, he's the one with the mask on his. He takes a mask off, or you can knock his mask off. But he jumps and has claws on his hand, these exact claw things. That
I feel that's not. Is that in the? That's a later Street Fighter. I don't feel like I know that.
I think it's Super Street Fighter 2 or something.
Okay,
I can't.
Yeah,
remember.
I only played 2 Championship Edition. Is the only one I ever played on Genesis, and I don't feel that was in there.
But this guy looks like a lion version of that. He's just not jumping off the walls, but he is still doing the jump. And doing
so it's not a lion.
No. Maybe, it's a human. Okay. He has just a mask.
Maybe he's in there then.
Yeah.
There's a lot of humans I don't remember necessarily. Street Fighter 2 is not my favorite of the two for sure. Between that and Mortal Kombat, I know every Mortal Kombat character very well, but not fucking all the Street Fighter ones. So this cat, I didn't mean that to be a pun, but it's kind of is.
Literal cat.
Yeah, didn't mean that to be the case. So he'll do an attack low at both sides. He'll also do one standing up, kind of the high level, and then he'll do a normal jumping attack out both directions, and then he'll also do a jump where he goes right the fuck off the screen, all the way, disappears, and then comes down who knows where with the claws extended. So you kind of, I don't know if you can, maybe a lot of times when they have that in a game, it's where you can kind of dictate where he falls. So as long as you're moving constantly and not backtracking into the place you just were, I guess, point of clarity, you can kind of always avoid that. I don't recall being able to tell that. I don't think the battle lasted that long for me to be able to ascertain, but maybe that's the case. Either way, he comes down somewhere and will hit you if you're standing beneath him, of course. I couldn't figure out a weak point. I eventually just got close and spammed his ankles. That was my solution.
That's what I did. It was easy. I just ducked and slashed. Like that's
okay.
It wasn't.
Yeah, I probably made it harder trying to avoid it than I needed to, and I probably should have spammed from the jump. But yeah, whatever. The round clear dialogue is, "I'm so tired. Hurry, or I won't be able to hold my sword." So again, yeah, he's on the downside of the emotional hill here. And yeah, it's I didn't know that it was only 5 levels. I expected 6 was my assumption, and just because there'd be balance. Normally these things are even numbers, whatever is my assumption. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking I'm only 2/3 of the way through here, and in turn, I equated that to maybe 11 minutes of the 16 I knew the long play video to be. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm also going, I guess what I'm saying is I'm also kind of going through with Rastan here. I'm like, oh yeah, I feel you, man. I also don't know if I can hold my fucking sword for this shit anymore either. So I was relating emotionally a great deal to Rastan in that moment when I saw that text. Round 5-4, shit is getting serious here. We are out of the woods and into a very ornate place setting for the stretch of the game. So again, I don't know if this is the last level, but I can see the environmental, okay, we're out of the forest, and this is like a nice place that someone powerful probably lives. Like, that is communicated to me, so I'm assuming I'm getting to, the lead henchman here that's going to be a deal. So, I do expect a serious boss battle at the end of this level, but, again, I don't know exactly what it's going to be. So that's the beginning. There's some new enemies, eagles, and that huge stone thing at the beginning.
So cool.
And, yeah, plenty of oldies. Those skeletons on the elephant mounts are cool-looking sprites, I think. And I got a couple new pickups here that I hadn't seen prior to this. I don't know if you got them prior to this, but I hadn't. I got both the defensive ones here for the first time. The Fang of the Hiddler, and that's the defensive buff with the skeletons, so I saw them for the first time. And again, just gray balls, not skeletons. And then the Cowl of the Wizard, and yeah, that decreases damage taken, I think, anyways. But I got them here for the first time. And then the first area is just a hack and slash. Second, as has been customary, is more environmentally based. They introduced these indestructible flying centipede sprites in the second one as environmental deals. And those are, it was interesting and new. There wasn't anything like that in the game otherwise, so I appreciated that. And you had to kind of time out and predict their flight pattern and then get to a place, tuck, wait for them to pass. And before they could get back around, get to the next thing and out of their fucking area of control or effect, So that was kind of interesting and different change. That again, little fucking victories. I want to give them their fucking due for that. It was a tough fucking area. Both these were, and they at least do spot you the red full healing starbursts in both areas, towards the end. So they know they're hard. They want to give you a little bit of reprieve here, and they acknowledge that with easy-to-find power-ups that get you back to health before you go into the next level. So that was a kind design choice that maybe kept me from launching my laptop into the fucking tennis courts before getting into the boss arena here against our high-grade demon boss battle adversary that was not present in the manual. So, whatever moniker it might go by, who knows? And I wasn't thinking about the box cover at the time, so this thing ambles out. It's an 8-armed humanoid thing. It is what's on the box cover, so maybe you could have put 2 and 2 together. I did not. But it has matching shields in its lower set of hands, matching swords in its second from the bottom set of hands, and then its 2 arms are just fucking willy-nilly doing whatever above those. And the attack mechanic is just stopping his ethereal slide across the ground movement. There's no stepping animation to him at all. He's just like a fucking convoy of side attacking damage. And yeah, he's swinging his swords out at one of the 2 heights, high or low. And it'll also fire laser beams from its eyes or head or something towards the ground. And this is cool, but whatever with this battle. When these things hit the ground, they turn into white wolves that you must deal with too.
I just figured they were his little puppies that came out to fight me because they're like these little tiny things, and obviously everything's a one-hit death. So I'm like, oh, his little puppy friend John. So weird to me.
I interpreted them as wolves. It's a cool idea to create minions. The big baddie would have minions. So yeah, I just, I'm looking at the way his attack deals happen in the out to the sides thing, and then he's shooting those laser beams, and those are like 45-degree angles that come out of him. Or I think he can change a little bit. Maybe it's not just 45 degrees. I think they might actually get a little further than intercardinal in this case. That kind of negates what I said earlier about this game's inability to even acknowledge those like slots. But because when I was in close, I feel like he could still hit me. It wasn't going over my head, so he must have more range than just that. Whatever the case. I see all this going on very quickly, and he doesn't seem to have... It doesn't look like anything serious is going on in the dead center of him. So I am like, I'm going to go there and just stab up. And that was my initial thought looking at this dude. And holy shit, did that work. Like, I go to the middle of them, and I just spam up, and like he just like pretty much turns into a solid white, which is a cool looking... I got a great screenshot from the boss battle video of... It looks like he's like... I don't know, kind of like Castle. I have the power, like doing the fucking sword up into the sky, and like this huge sprite is around him in all white, So it's kind of made for a cool fucking screenshot. But yeah, basically just spam the fuck out of him, and I was able to kill him. I had a full life meter going in there because, like I said, it has the pickup at the end, so I go in with a full meter, and I was able to just spam him. I took damage from just being in him, or on top of him, right. I guess. But none of his shit could hit me. And I just spammed, and by the time I got to 3 fucking life blocks, he was gone. And your face suggests you did this differently.
Yeah, I did. So I do want to say it's funny watching, before I even say that, watching the playthrough, long play, this dude literally jump-slashed him twice with the Wolverine claws and defeated him. So I don't know how, I did not have the claws by the time I got here. I was back to the short sword, so it was like, whatever. But for me, man, this boss was easy to beat.
This long play cat has the fucking claws in every battle.
Right?
He knows where the shit is. He looked at some maps. He has Nintendo Power. He has Sega Visions.
Right?
We should have waited until Sega Visions was out so we could have the claws.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, but it wouldn't have mattered because all I had to do...
Yeah, it would have changed our experience. None, probably.
Right? It's funny because all I did was watch him do his slash mechanic, and then I just jump slashed his head. I killed the puppies when he sent them out a couple times, but it was literally just wait for him to do sword, 2 or 3, and then he would just stop. And then I would just slash. It was so quick and easy. I wrote it in my notes that can't be it. We're not done, are we? Yes, we are.
Well, were you aware or understanding that you were fighting the final boss going into this?
Well, yeah, because it said there were 5 rounds somewhere. So I was like,
okay,
right,
so yeah, all right. Oh, yeah. Again, I didn't glean that. So yeah, this fucking thing ends. It dies. A Stone of Wise appears just as it always does.
No change.
And you grab that, and then we cut to black. And I'm thinking what's Homeboy going to say now? Is this little pep talk? Where's this emotional journey going? Oh no, this is an in-game sequence. And I'm like, what the fuck? That's the end of it? So, we listened to this podcast before, and you know how my fucking blessing conversations go. If I don't even know I was in the fucking final boss battle, that's not going to bode well for a huge determinant in my fucking, blessing bestowal. So, yeah, I didn't even know that I was in the fucking final boss battle. And again, it could not have been easier, yeah, as far as how I spammed it. So,
yeah.
That supported my theory that I must not be at the boss battle yet. And when this fucking shit came up and it was in the game sequence, I was completely floored. And I was, okay. So, yeah, and to boot, just about as much effort as is put into the rest of the game is put into the end sequence too. It's very fucking blasé, I think. The large sword sprite is kind of cool. I do like that. It's just as far as artwork goes to put the story, sure. I feel it's even that's kind of how Conan ends. I feel like it goes to a static screen, and then it tells you kind of in the cool voiceover guy that does Conan movies, whoever that is. I should know that name. I feel like that's probably he's probably done a lot of shit like that we should know. He's a name we should probably acknowledge and respect. But so whatever, it kind of fits, I suppose. But it still feels low effort to me, and maybe because I felt so much low effort in the rest of this. And the text reads, I swear I will defend this vast ground. So it's funny. It starts with one of his own pep talks. Like, he's made it, he finished it, and now he's finally regained confidence. And he's like, communicating that he's now like, I don't know, he's no longer fucking whatever, fearful or worried or whatever. So that was funny to me. But goes on from there to say, the war of the sacred Rastania is now over. People called the one who survived the war Rastan, which is kind of in conflict, I think. If I recall correctly, he was called Rastan already, right?
Right. Like,
Isn't that what the story said?
Yeah.
I think he was already called Rastan, supposedly. So get your shit straight, Taito. Yeah. So again, I'd forgotten it or whatever, but I was like thinking to myself, like, oh, so this is a prologue here. So I'd forgotten that I had even fucking took in that information earlier, despite how emotionally impactful of a story it all is. It had evaded me at this point. Or eluded me, I should say. The story of the Rastan Saga will continue, we are further told. And yeah, I mean, like I said, they're not lying there. There is a certain third installment headed to arcades in 91. But my excitement for it is, how do you say non-existent whatsoever? So yeah, that's kind of a bummer. The music track, there is a dedicated in-game music track, at least. One of the 4 is dedicated to this. Good job, guys. That music track peters out, just like our gaming experience, and the game over appears game over in text appears on in the middle of the screen, and it looks like, it's like the same, it's that normal ass sized Sega text font that you always see before the Sega logo, or maybe after it sometimes on Sega games. It's just like the Sega legalese, like Sega fucking something or other. Product of Sega Enterprise, some shit like that. So it's like just the normal ass text. They didn't even like give you some fucking font that makes it significant. It's just game over in the most basic font the system has to offer, as the last thing you see before it fades out, or maybe even cuts to black, and the Sega text comes up. Sega text and font or logo come up and does the shimmer, just as if you had turned the system on. So just a very unceremonious end, I think, to a very unceremonious play experience of a very unceremonious port of a very unceremonious arcade game. That is a real fucking bummer, because I was excited about this.
Yeah, I gotta say, it was surprising to see that note, like, almost like the MCU, like Iron Man will return, Thor will return. I'm like, Rastania will. I'm like, what? Rastania will continue? How do you know, like, based on this, unless they were already starting development?
I had made the connection, dude. This is a prologue. They're just telling you that the first one exists, which was true also.
Oh, okay. That checks out.
Right. Yeah. So I guess I would have criticized it less, because they're saying maybe it's fucking. They're not promising me more, at least. Right. So yeah, that actually makes me feel a little better. That's funny. I had made that connection. I love how we just work through it in here, Jay. It's really very, very cathartic.
Song 4, The Big Swords, our ending theme, appropriately ending this playthrough and our discussion of it.
Nah, man. Nah. It's not a whole video game. It's very reminiscent, I told you, of Altered Beast. It's like the equivalent of a modern phone game, like Candy Crush or some shit, dude. It's like... We often... Like, Nintendo gets shit for kind of like their Hitler-esque regime shit ruling over third-party development titles, and how, the fucking Iron Fist with the licensing fees and the limited number of carts they can make. Like, everyone, they get a lot of shit for that. But this is what their requirements that an arcade port had to have some meat to it for a home game is exactly what you need to have to prevent shit like this. So Gotta be careful. Gotta be careful what you talk shit about, because this is exactly what happens if you don't. Like, if you want a port of an arcade game, that's fine, but you have to turn it into a whole video game that someone who's gonna plunk $50 down for can sink their teeth into for more than 11 minutes.
Yes.
You know? And like, fuck. That's all this is. And yeah, it's a fine, benign little gaming experience that is worth playing if you like fantasy shit and have some kind of nostalgia for the first one, maybe. But it's got lame-ass bosses. Lame bosses despite cool, oversized, great sprite art. It's still lame, so that's really bad that they just found a way to undermine the best part about the game. Probably is a real big fail. Like, if you are going to spend all that time on the sprite work, you should identify that as an asset and then like put effort into the employment of them. You know what I mean? So, yuck choice there. There's shit move mechanics, very clunky and stiff, which I almost kind of liked that about the first one, because it was like, I don't know, man. Maybe we're being unrealistic.
It flowed. I don't know.
Yeah,
it just seemed to work better.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I want to say maybe we're just being more demanding because it's later in the timeline, but that's maybe that's should be. It's a 16-bit, not 18-bit, or 8-bit rather. It's not. That doesn't just mean the graphics are better. It also means the fucking command over the fucking hardware, software, making of video games in general, all of that should be further along and better. And maybe that's fine to feel that way or have that perspective disparity between the two. But yeah, there's that. I mean, there's just ultimately very little video game. And I think that makes it far from something that King Lorik would want to be publicly aligned with. So no blessing.
Yeah, it's this is definitely a double no blessing episode. I mean, the one-hit enemies throughout, like everything's, even when cool sprites, big enemies will come up later, they either can't be killed, and I'm annoyed. I'm like spamming. I'm like, what? Okay, I guess this thing just can't be killed, or everything's a one hit. So it's like you got this really cool, impressive flying thing, and one slice and it's done. And that, like that. If I just had 15 minutes to play, great, but that's not usually.
And you know what? That's a great point. That's also why those weapons don't mean anything.
Yeah,
and I didn't think about that, but that's why they don't mean anything either. It's because it doesn't change your experience even to that level. It doesn't. You don't actually. I guess if you get them into the boss battles, you would maybe notice that, but whatever.
But that's the exact whole point. Like, and what we were saying from the beginning, this is not like other games where I want to save state and go back and make sure I have the powerful weapon because I literally need it on the boss, or because it'll make my boss fight experience so much easier. But I was going in with the short sword and easily winning, and then I'm like, oh well, I wasn't even saving at first because I was like, oh well, I'm just kind of messing around to see how this goes. I'll go back and get the weapon.
Oh shit! Now the game's over.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like round 3. I'm like, well, I guess I'll just keep playing. Like I don't need any better weapons, and like if you give me cool stuff sparingly and I don't need it, what are we doing? What are we doing, Josh?
Agreed. So there it is. Double no blessing.
Wah, wah, wah.
When's the last time we had one of those?
I think it's been a little while.
Yeah. Well, we'll choose something better next time. Hope maybe we should have just done the shmup. We should have just done that. I told you actually we should have done that. We should have done that goofy ass fucking sports games that we should have done. I think we would have had fun doing that, and we could have played head to head. There's just been a lot. I think there's just been more there. There's no question it would have been more fun, but I just also would have been more to talk about probably.
We live and we learn, Josh.
Yeah, we do. Next up, we will learn about and indulge in Nintendo Power number 23, the Big N's April 91 coverage. I'm sure there'll be a banger in there for us to partake in and wash this experience off ourselves with. Subscribe to the pod on the platform provided, whatever dumbass company that serves up your pottery. Please rate and leave positive shit for the pod on that podcast platform of choice, or any other for that matter. The website is nyehentertainment.com/ISOHpod. You can email us directly at isohpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the pod on Facebook or Instagram. There's a link to the YouTube gameplay videos playlist, to the ISOH subreddit. All shit you can get down with this on if you want to look up the links to those in the show notes. And we do not have a Patreon, but if you'd like giving things to my... Whoa, did it again. Did a dyslexia thing to take us out of here to comedy's best in 3, so you're welcome, everyone. We don't have a Patreon, but if you'd like giving money to things podcasters tell you to, I'd like to do so in our direction. The Able Gamers Foundation creates custom gaming rigs for gamers with disabilities. That's cool as fuck. ablegamers.org is where you can find them. Go give them dough. Tax write-off. Maybe you can backdate it or something, dude. Fuck it. IRS will never know.
They're going to eliminate it anyway, right? So what are we talking about?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's probably out of here. By the time, you'll never know. Just fucking give them money. It's all going to shit anyways. You don't need that money by the end of the year. It's just everything's fucked. T-shirts are on the website. They're dope, and proceeds on those after pod expenses go to Able Gamers. Go buy yourself one so you have something to rock in the apocalypse. And the money after pod expenses goes to Able Gamers as well. Did I say that twice? Say it twice. Jay, tell us your socials twice.
Gentleman JB without the second E. Gentleman JB without the second E. That is my gamer tag. And when I'm posting on the socials, I kind of avoid them these days. That's where you can find me. But anyway, let's game.
Gotta join Blue Sky. Yeah, gotta join Blue Sky.
Oh, I haven't done that yet. I keep hearing about it.
Someone keeps telling me about it. I don't know what the fuck's telling me about it. I am on Blue Sky at niaentertainment.com, I think. The Instagram is my shift key is broke, and my Oculus tag is my shift key is broke. Okay, bye.
Bye. I'm going to throw Cookie Monster on for this segment because that's how I feel about respecting Rastan